get you, Barbara.
When there's no more room in hell.
Hey, there I am. What's going on, everybody? I had my fucking mouse ready for something else, and then there we go. I'm gonna throw you guys up here. What's going on, guys? Happy Sunday night to you all. I got fucking lulled in, man. I was hypnotized by that intro. I don't know, it does it for me. I just all the locations and stuff for the various Romero films just kind of sucks my brain in. I'm just like, oh, I've been there. Oh, that's a cool spot. Oh, wow, okay. But how's everybody doing tonight? Hope you all had a good Valentine's Day yesterday. The Daytona 500 was today, so it's been a busy weekend. If you're a race fan or a fan of yearly jobs or whatever it may be, however you celebrate Valentine's Day, you I'm all for it. Whatever. But yeah, it's been a busy few weeks here on the channel. Had some really cool guests. Really enjoyed the past 3 weeks. Having Norman England, Matt Blasey, Michael Felsher last week. Just really great stuff. I can't thank those guys enough for coming on and sharing some of their time and some of their stories with me. And I hope you guys enjoyed that as well. I been getting some really good feedback on that, so I'm glad to hear that you guys kind of dug that as much, or at least almost as much as I did, because I love talking to those guys. Love to have them on the show again sometime in the near future. But yeah, so I figured I'd come on tonight in honor of Valentine's Day, as in, love is in the air and on the mind and on the brain and whatnot. Figured I thought it'd be kind of an interesting topic to kind of go over and kind of get you guys' thoughts on the various ways that love and relationships are portrayed in Romero's films, the way that Romero kind of looks at, because doing a little research for this and kind of thinking about it throughout the week, like, you got to really, Romero really, he wasn't a fan of love stories. We'll just say that they're all pretty unconventional. Like, any type of relationship, marriage, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, they're all pretty, unconventional for the most part. There's a couple of films where it's like, yeah, it's pretty standard, boy meets girl type of thing. But for the most part, like, it's different types of relate, and that's the truth about life. There are so many different types of relationships, and so many. The way that we relate to one another on a romantic level is just so different depending on your age and what phase of life you're in and personalities and all this type of stuff. So I thought it'd be kind of good to do just a little bit of a Romero deep dive tonight and kind of look at some of the different types of relationships that Romero portrays throughout his films throughout the years. Thought that'd be kind of fun. And there's a shit ton of news to catch up on, because, like I said, over the past 3 weeks, we've had some really cool guests on and haven't been able to really touch on a lot of stuff. I've tried to keep track of a lot of it in the community section, and like, we got the new Day of the Dead figures coming out from Trick or Treat Studios. The pre-order is officially up. We'll take a look at that. The price has been announced. We'll look at what these things are going to cost. If you guys plan on picking any of these up, if I plan on picking any of these up, they look pretty cool. I mean, it's going to be really hard for me to pass these up, because they're Day of the Dead figures, and it's the first, like, officially licensed figures that we've gotten of Captain Rhodes, or Sarah, Lori Cardille. So just those two alone, really, are kind of selling it for me. But we'll talk about those. We'll take a look at those. And we got a sneak peek over the weekend of some new, some other Romero related Trick or Treat Studio figures that are coming next year. So if you haven't seen those, the prototypes for those, stick around and we're going to take a look at those too. And I'll share my thoughts. We'll just say that. Living Dead weekend, tickets went on sale. They've been, it's a hot ticket. They've been announcing guests, 3 or 4 guests a week at this point. Some pretty cool guests have already been announced. I've heard, some names being thrown around of some possible guests that are coming up. So we'll dive into that. We'll take a look at where everything stands right now. Living Dead weekend coming up in June. I saw the Zola World Night of the Living Dead figures that we talked about. It seems like years ago at this point, but those are officially set to be shipped out. Those are ready to go, and I think the ship date is pretty similar, almost right around the exact same time as the Day of the Dead figures are going out. So if you got both of those, you're gonna have a really busy, really fun, mill day coming up probably in early April. So that's exciting stuff. But let's check the chat, see what we got in here tonight. And it's like I said, past few weeks I've had guests on. Usually when I have guests on, it's kind of hard to get to everybody in the chat and try to get. I tried to get as many comments and as many questions as I could, but as the conversation's rolling, I don't want to like break into the conversation and be like, "Hey, Felsher, shut up real quick! Like, stop telling this amazing story about you and hanging out at George's house until 4 a.m. Somebody wants to comment on something. So I've been keeping an eye on it, but it's been hard to get to. But we'll get back to it tonight because I've missed you guys. And I saw a synth comment, I think it was earlier today, is that, hey, there's nothing more romantic than a Romero zombie chomping down on a beating heart ripped from a chest. That's right. That's right. That was my thought coming up with the thumbnail for tonight. And there's nothing more romantic than a Romero film. I mean, what can you say? We got Michelle in the house. What's going on, Michelle? Hello, Mike and other assorted peeps. What's going on, Michelle? Hope you're doing well. You like the way that rhymes there? I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. We got Ed. What's going on, man? Ed, Trader Music and Entertainment. Glad I can be here live. Been busy the past few shows. You missed some good ones, man. You missed some good ones. But you can always go back and check those out. Some really fun stories, some really good information from those guys. It was really cool because I've talked to Blasey before and I've talked to Felsher before in person, but it was just like, small chat. You run into him at the Living Dead weekend or a Horror Hound or something like that. But actually, like getting to sit down and have a full conversation was really cool. But it was especially cool for me talking to Norman England because I've never spoken to Norman before. Like I always knew who he was. That was always a name that was on my radar just from growing up, being really into Dawn of the Dead. And I knew that he was just like one of the big guys in terms of like Romero fans, Dawn fans. And it was funny. It was interesting, a little behind the scenes story here, but it was interesting when I had Norman on before we went live. Norman was just like, hey, man, it's great. I don't really get to talk about this stuff a whole lot. I kind of work on a lot of other things, but I'm really excited to do it. But I don't know how much I'll have to talk about, but, we'll see where it goes. I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it, man. And then, 4.5 hours later, it's just like, all right, we can just keep talking for another 4 hours and be totally fine. So it was cool getting him on and just and hearing all his stories and thoughts and everything like that. So, but yeah, that one's a really good one. That's a long one though, 4.5. I think that may be the record for the longest show we've ever done. Maybe one of the shows that I did with Vulo at one point, because Vulo's another guy that I can just like wind up and let go and just be like, okay, tell me more. But yeah, good stuff. But good to see you in here, man. Nothing wrong with being busy. Everybody try to stay busy. That's important. We got Matt's in the house. What's going on, Matt? Drone of the Dead, and I know you've got the pre-order in already for those Day of the Dead figures. I could have guessed that. I could have figured that beforehand. Fucking dog barking. Dog gets on my nerves. Seth, it's alive. It's alive. I watched that movie for the first time the other night. It's Alive, the Larry Cohen film from '74. Wasn't that impressed with it. There's a few gags that are kind of enjoyable, but for the most part it's weird. It's like it's one of those movies that feels like it should be in the '80s, where it should be a little more lighthearted and a little lighter than it is. But they take it so seriously throughout that whole film, like the whole situation. It's just kind of like, I don't know if this works or not, but it is what it is. We got Bonnie Bailey in the house. What's going on, Bonnie? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. We got William Belasco. What's going on, Will? Says good evening and good night. Alarm goes off at 4. Y'all enjoy. Oh, you're not off tomorrow for was it President's Day is tomorrow? I'm not off either, so I feel your pain, but I don't have to get up at 4. But if I did, I wouldn't be doing this tonight. It'd have been, it'd been some other night. But good to see you. Glad you could stop by and say hi. We got Steven Ustrack Jr. Howdy, campers. What's going on, Steven? Hope you're doing well, my man. Jeff, what's going on, man? Down is up. Down is up. What's up, Michael, and all my fellow Romero family? I purchased a set of day figures. I just had to have them. Yeah, man, they're hard to pass up because they look really cool. I loved, especially like the Doctor Tongue one, which for me, like if it was just another Doctor Tongue figure, which I have the one already that they did back in the late 2000s, the Monstars, Amok Time figure, which is a pretty hard figure to find. They're pretty expensive at this point, but I was able to find one. But if it was just another Doctor Tongue figure, I'd have been like, I could probably pass on that one. But they included the fucking alligator and the newspaper with it as well. So that immediately is just like, yeah, that's I gotta have that fucking alligator. I don't know why, but the alligator sells it for me. Um, it's in your loud and clear here. Very good, very good. Let's see. Jeff says, yeah, the intro is great. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, killer trio of guests. Yeah, I agree, man. I had a lot of fun. I'm glad you guys enjoyed that as well. And like I said, I'd love to get them back on. Looking at trying to reach out to some other folks here. Some coming up soon. Got some other shows planned for the next I don't know month or so, but we'll see what happens. We'll see who else I can get on the show. I'm gonna be like the Romero version of Joe Rogan. I'm just gonna have people on. We're just gonna talk for like 3 hours. I'm just gonna ask them, "Have you ever done DMT?" That's what that's what it's gonna lead to. Eventually, it's just gonna be me asking them if they've done various drugs. Felcher back on, ask him about DMT. um, Just says one of my hot takes of a great love bites would be Miguel and his wife in the intro, Dawn of the Dead. Yeah, we talked about this before. I think my interpretation of that is like Miguel in his previous life was a really good husband and loved his wife. And so that's why in the film when you see him emerge from the room, I'm about to kill this fucking dog. Hold on, let me mute this before I yell. Okay, all right. We're about to see some animal abuse on here tonight. It's gonna be like Cannibal Holocaust tonight, Dad damn it. But my theory is he was in a he loved his wife and and he emerges from the room. He goes right past Roger and the other SWAT guy and goes straight to his old apartment to where his wife was. And I think that's just part of his instinct of like, oh, I got to get home to my wife type of thing. And then, of course, she runs into his arm. And then, of course, it's that iconic, literally love bites. I mean, it's a literal interpretation of the term love bites. But yeah, I love that one. But that's my interpretation of it. I don't know. I don't know if that was in George's mind when he made the film, but that's in my mind when I watch it. Um, we got Justin. What's going on, Justin? Justin Moreno, Alpha. How you doing? I'm doing good, man. Yeah, it's just been weekends fly by, man. I don't know. Especially Valentine's Day yesterday. We had, like I said, Daytona 500 was today, so I made sure to watch that. Which the Daytona 5, I don't, it's just race talk. I don't know how many of you guys give a shit about NASCAR, but I'm a NASCAR fan. But the Daytona 500 is just one of those that seems like, oh, I'm so hyped when it happens. Then I'm watching it, and it's just like it's one of the worst races of the year because it's literally just a bunch of cars saving gas until like the last 5 laps, and then they all just crash out, and then like some random guy always wins. It's just like, what the. But it's like the Super Bowl. We had the Super Bowl last weekend. It was a horrible, horrible game, and just the hype and everything around it is far more impactful than the actual game itself. Um, that's a good question, Synth. The Rhodes figure comes apart, right? Well, see, people have been asking me that. I've been bringing that up, and I feel like I remember hearing that somewhere. I don't know if it was just a rumor or if it was just somebody's idea, which I thought was an amazing idea, but I don't know for sure. I don't think so because I haven't heard anything like officially about it. And even if it did, like the problem with that is like when I buy a figure, I just keep them in the packages like always. I never open a figure, which sucks for this because I would love to take them out of their packaging. Um, but like I said, even if he did come apart, like I would never know. I could never find out or see it because I would never take him out of the packaging. But I don't think that's the case. But like I said, I feel like I remember hearing that somewhere a long time ago when these figures were first announced. But I haven't heard anything else. I haven't seen anything else um, about it, so I can't say for sure. Um, Jeff says, "Yeah, I believe the Rhodes character does split apart with the guts coming out, which would be rad." Okay, well, maybe he does. I don't know. I haven't They haven't promoted that. It's not on the packaging because I've seen the packaging. I've seen the actual packaging of it. It doesn't say like with gut exploding action or whatever. So I don't know, maybe, but like I said, I would never find out because I would never open them out of the package. Um, but that would be cool though. I mean, that would be a cool little Easter egg to throw in there. Um, what's up, man? We got the cooler 9091 in the house. What's going on, man? Which I think liquid cooler. I think is what your actual. I hate that they've changed all the ats because everybody's other names were way cooler, but cooler. Get it? See what I did there? But what's going on, man? Good to see you. Jeff says the baby is really weird. I saw that when I was 11 years old. Oh, the It's Alive baby. Yeah, I mean, it looks kind of cool, but the movie itself is just kind of, it's not great. And I mean, when you think of it too, and It's Alive came out in 1974. That was the same year that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out, and the same year that Black Christmas came out. And it's like, okay, we can kind of see where horror was going in '74, and It's Alive at it to me just doesn't hold up to that standard. It still, it felt a little behind the times, but I mean the baby effect does look kind of cool, but you only see it so much throughout the movie. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Jeff said I had those too. I'm just addicted to any kind of Romero Living Dead figures. Man, I am too. I don't know what it is. I love action figures, but I have so many at this point. I have so little room. Like I literally have a rack with those like prongs that come out that like at a store that you can like put the figures on. I literally have a rack of those over here where it's just like all the figures. Like I can't really properly display them anymore. I don't know what I'm gonna do with the new day figures. I didn't get the night figures from Zolo World. I didn't pick those up. I know my buddy Will did. He bought those God over a year ago, I think, when the pre-order went up. Um so those are gonna be really cool. I might have him on the channel when he gets those to kind of show them off because they are really cool figures, but at the time I couldn't because I'm one of those guys that's like if I buy one, I got to have them all. I got to have the whole collection, the whole set. And I think altogether those figures were like $170 or something like that. But they're still really really cool. So I may try to get Will on here to show him off when he because I think he did end up buying the entire set. So um Steven says, "I understand Alpha the Gator was cool." Yeah, just a nice little touch. I like the little extras that they threw in there. Like they all have like the little extras. Like Bub's got the Walkman, and Sarah's got the corral stick or whatever you want to call it. And of course, Rhodes has the M16 and then the revolver. But yeah, the Dr. Tongue with the newspaper and the alligator, it's almost like you're getting two figures for the price of one. It's just a fucking alligator. It'd be cool if the alligator actually had its mouth taped shut or wrapped shut or whatever they did, because that's the whole thing when they shut the film. You can kind of see it when you watch the movie. They had to tie the gator's mouth shut so it didn't kill anybody on set, and you can kind of see it in the picture. It'd be cool if like on the action figure itself, the actual alligator action figure, its mouth is kind of taped shut, um, just as a little if you know type of thing. Um, it says, "Oh yeah, I went back and saw the past few shows. Great stuff. Thank you very much, man. I had a blast. Love those type of shows because man, it's so easy for me. 'Cause I'm just like, because those guys, I'm just like, I have a million questions for them anyway. So it's just like I could go for hours and hours. So I'd love to get all those guys back at some point. Which Felcher did mention at the end of the show last week. Felcher did mention possibly trying to do something live from Living Dead weekend together, which I would be totally down for. But like I said, like I told him, it's just a logistical thing because it's something I've definitely thought about doing. For one, which Synth can testify to this, the signal inside the mall itself is really really shitty. Like there's like a handful of spots that you have any cell phone signal at all, hardly. The rest of the mall is pretty rough. So doing something actually inside the mall would probably take some I know some real extra effort. So maybe something from the hotel, maybe I don't know, but I would love to do something actually live from the show this year. So I'm thinking about. I got notes over here. I'm trying to figure out like, okay, what could I do? So stay tuned for that. Something may come of that, because I'd love to, like I said, love to do something live. Which, are you going to be there? Are you going to make it this year, Ed? I know you've mentioned in the past that you've wanted to, but you just haven't made it yet. So if you're going to, I mean, this is the year to do it. Um, I'd love to finally meet you in person, my man. Liquid Cooler says, could see you being the Joe Rogan of zombie culture podcast. Yeah, there you go. Be like, hey, so what about these? Or what do you think? Zombies are UFOs, or are they all just an illusion because everybody was drugged with DMT or something? Just go. Just really get. I don't smoke enough pot. To get that deep into the conspiracy theories and stuff. But I mean, I do love a good conspiracy theory though. I'm big, and I don't. It's not that I really buy into it or believe it. Which Roger Avery was on Joe Rogan earlier this week. We were actually talking about Roger Avery because I think he's going to be at the Days of the Dead in Atlanta. Matt, I think is what you said. And he was on Rogan earlier this week, and it's cool listening to them talk about movies. Well, it's cool to listen to Roger Avery talk about movies. Listening to Rogan talk about movies is kind of painful because he's you can tell he's not really into movies. Like, he likes movies, of course, but like trying to talk film to Joe Rogan's kind of like, whatever. But it's cool listening to Roger Avery talk about it. But eventually, about an hour and a half into that conversation, Roger Avery just starts going off the fucking deep end with all these crazy conspiracy theories about the Epstein files, and the world's run by a satanic cult, and they eat babies and drink blood, and 9/11 was an incident. It was just like every conspiracy, even down to like flat earth. Like, he starts talking about flat earth, and even Rogan at some point is just like, I don't think so, man. I think you're kind of off there. But yeah, I mean, but I love listening to that stuff because it's just, I don't know, I just find it interesting for some reason. Like, I don't really buy into any of it. Like, I do think there are definitely shit going on that we don't know about, not supposed to know about. Um, especially when it comes to like influencing the population type of stuff. Like, I do kind of see some validity to that. But when we start getting into like flat Earth and shit like that, then I'm just like, yeah, okay. But it's always interesting to hear these people kind of connect these weird dots in the weird way that they do. But well, anyway, yeah, exactly, Matt. DMT, adrenochrome, UFOs, Illuminati, etc. We already got some of that covered. Yeah, man, I'm telling you, man, the adrenochrome, you know it's a real thing, man. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I swear to God, that's what Texas Chainsaw Massacre is about. The Illuminati. I'm telling you. Kim Hinkle and Toby Hooper were on top of that shit all the way back in the 70s. Which for a group of hippies in Texas and Austin, Texas, that were probably dropping acid and smoking a shit ton of dope at the time, is not out of the question. They probably came across some of that stuff back in the day and were just like, wow, let's make a movie about this shit. But they did it in a subtle way that they kind of got away with, where nobody really caught on. Whereas by the time they got to Next Generation and Kim Hinkle really just let the reins loose and was literally like, on the side of the truck it says Illuminati fucking towing service or whatever, then it's just like, yeah. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I get a kick out of that shit. I always have, like the old Art Bell, Coast to Coast shit back in the day. Like, I still go back and listen to some of that stuff because you can find all those old episodes on YouTube. I still get a kick out of going back and listening to some of that shit. Liquid Cooler says that first Dawn of the Dead set the precedent for future zombie gore in shows, video games, comics, etc. Yeah, I mean, it's at the standard for physical effects, gore effects in general. Because without Dawn of the Dead, we wouldn't have gotten Friday the 13th. If we wouldn't have gotten Friday the 13th, we wouldn't have got the slasher genre and the splatter of the 80s. We wouldn't have gotten Tom Savini and all that he created. So yeah, 100% for sure. Steven says if the Rhodes figure does come apart, you may have to buy 3 of them. Yeah, that's true. And I thought about that. I was like, man, you kind of want to buy 2 of each, one to keep packaged and the other one to open and play with, because we're all big children. Really, let's be honest, we're all just big kids here. We all want to play with our toys. But yeah, for the going rate, for the price that they're going for, like, I couldn't pull the trigger on that. So if when I do 'Cause I haven't pre-ordered them yet. I haven't gone down that road. I think pre-order is going to be up for about another month or so. We'll look at it here in a little bit, but yeah, I'm sure eventually I will. But um, since it says you have to buy 3 of each figure, one to open and play with, second to collect for future sale and storage, and third to display in the packaging. That's right. That's probably what Larry does. I think I've heard Larry say something very similar to that. Um, I don't know if he opens them and plays with them, but he'll. I know Larry will. He's said before he'll buy 2 of something, just one for him and then one to resell down the road when it goes for like double the price, which is fucking brilliant, which is smart. I wish I could was forward thinking like that, but I never am. And then I always look back, down the road, and I'm just like, fuck, I bought that for $20, and now it's going on eBay for $100. I'm just like, shit, I should have bought 2 of those because I don't want to sell the one that I have. I think about that all the time with that Second Sight Dawn of the Dead box set and seeing what those things go for now. I wish I would have grabbed 2 of those when they went up because those are out of print now. You can't really, it's hard to find those, which is why they go for so much. Jeff says I got the set too. I recently got the backdrop. Are you talking about the night figures, the Zolo World night figures? Yeah, I saw that they were also trying to they're doing some like crowdfunding thing to get, it looks like a Lego house or something like that that you can, I don't know if it comes built or you can build it, of the actual farmhouse from Night. So that's something to keep an eye on too. I don't know what they're planning on doing with that. But I don't know. I'm trying to think of what they were asking for price wise on that. Jeff says, yeah, that's right. 170 for the night, and I paid 130 for day. Yeah. That's what it is. The day figures I think are like $30 a piece. So to get all 4, it's gonna cost you about 130, shipping and everything. Steven says, I'm a Batman fan, so compared to that, there's not really that many Romero figures. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Romero figures are definitely like, that's why it's easier to be a Romero fan. It's like if I was a Star Wars fan, like fucking forget about it. Like there's just so much Star Wars shit out there that you could buy if you wanted to. And we've talked about it before. It's just like if Dawn of the Dead or Romero stuff did have the marketing that something like a Star Wars or something had, I probably wouldn't be as into it as I am because it'd be just fucking everywhere and I'd be sick to death of it. But yeah, with like Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, anything Romero, it's just like, oh, well, I got to get that because it's probably going to be the only thing that comes out for that, for the next, 2-3 years at least. Keeping It Horror, what's going on? That's a cool name. Dig that. I have the Romero plush, which is my favorite. They used to sell it back in the day on Fangoria. The Romero plush. You're talking about like the is it like the one that they sell that the Garf sells? Trying to remember what they call it, but it's like it's like zombie Romero plushie or whatever. I don't have one of those. Those actually go for a pretty good price now, but those are pretty cool. I remember when we had Everly when she was little. I considered buying one just to put in the crib with her, but then I saw what they were priced at, and I was like, yeah, I don't know if I want her spewing all over this thing. But good to see you, man. It's a cool name. Since it says, yeah, early night figures purchasers get the display set, sort of like the old Star Wars Kenner display set for early mail-in orders. Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, I can't say for sure, but I feel like will probably get the backdrop as well because I know he ordered it almost like the day it went up for pre-order. I think. Jeff says exactly since just like the Star Wars early bird package. Since the Repo Man was a great spoof of conspiracy theories and blend of punk culture. I haven't seen that. Are you Repo Man? That's from the 80s, right? Because there was also, what was the other one that was like more recent? Something Genetic Opera or something like that. Repo Genetic Opera. I can't think what that is, but what it's called. But there is the Repo. I think you're talking about the one from the 80s, right? I haven't seen either one of them, so. Yeah, Jeff says a 3D print out of the farmhouse from Night. Yeah, so is it actually like built? Because when I was looking at it, it looked like Legos, like you'd have to put it together yourself. But if it's a 3D print of the actual farmhouse, I mean, that'd be pretty cool. It still may be something you have to snap together, um, but we'll see. Since as although H.G. Lewis was a pioneer for 1963 Blood Feast and others, also using abattoir offal. I don't know what that word is for realism. I don't speak French. I only speak American, sir. Um, yeah, H.G. Lewis definitely is one of the early pioneers of gore, but I would say like on a mainstream level because H.G. Lewis his movies are awful. Um, like if you're just watching it for the gore, yeah. But I think in terms of like for a mainstream audience to actually see something like a coherent film that pushes the envelope like that, um, George was one of the early ones to do that. Especially with like Night. I was watching the Crazies a minute ago. Actually, there's quite a bit of gore in the Crazies too. It's more like gunshots and stuff like that. But there's still some pretty cool stuff in that. Um, but yeah, of course, there was like Sam Peckinpah, and you know, there's been some interesting effects and stuff before that. But actually, like the way that it was done in Dawn of the Dead, where it's so over the top and so imaginative, like that's what inspired everything going forward. Like without Dawn of the Dead, you wouldn't have all the people wouldn't be going to see the Friday the 13th movies in the 80s, you know, for the story, or the acting or anything like that. They're going to see like, oh, what cool way are they going to kill um are they going to kill the kids this time? Like that's all it is. It's like why people go see Terrifier now, which I didn't even mention it. Friday was Friday the 13th, so happy late Friday the 13th, everybody. I did end up watching part 6 for Friday the 13th. I put it in our group chat with Matt, Michelle, and everybody sent asking which one should I watch because I'm not a big Friday the 13th guy. I don't really go back and watch them a whole lot. It's been years since I'd seen 6. Um, I've never watched um, Jason Goes to Hell. I've never seen that all the way through, which Felsher actually just announced that actually went up for pre-order on Friday the 13th. His documentary on that, which I would kind of be interested in checking out, and maybe it would sell me on the movie. Because the same thing kind of happened when he put out After Effects. I'd never heard of Effects, but then I watched the documentary. I'm like, oh shit, I got to see Effects now. But I've just never been a huge Friday the 13th guy. So I went back and revisited part 6, which I hadn't seen part 6 in many, many years. Um, yeah, I think by that point, it's just I love part 5, the original Friday the 13th. I still think it's a great horror film. It's like the only one of the Friday the 13th series that I really consider a great horror film. Um, just because it's the most realistic. It's the one that makes the most sense. There's no supernatural element to it. You got early Savini effects in there. You got young Kevin Bacon, and it's actually kind of scary. Like it's still trying to be somewhat scary horror film. But by the time they get to part 6, it's just like knee slapping goofy guys with paintball guns, and it's just like what the fuck is this? Um, yeah, not a big fan of part 6, but I love part 5. Part 5 does that well because the characters are all colorful and interesting and fun. They're quotable. The kills are cool, and it's got a nice little twist at the end, which whether or not it makes sense is like whatever. It's still a nice little twist that kind of deviates from the expected the expected story that you expect to play out with a Friday the 13th movie. Um, but yeah, so that's just my opinion. I've never been a big. I used to love when I was younger, but the older I got, the more it's just like the more when I watch those movies, I kind of get bored with them. I because I'm like I know where this is going. Like it's a formula. It kind of plays out. I've seen all the kills before. It's just like, but part 5 I can go back and watch anytime because I just love revisiting those characters more than anything. Anyway, there's my Friday the 13th ramble for tonight. I got you, Gore Pioneer. Justin says I have the Necodon figures and the Amic Time Day figures. My favorite is Dr. Tongue. Yeah, I got all those as well. I did that video on the NECA figures, and I still think those are probably still the best figures for Dawn of the Dead that you can find. They're pretty expensive to find now, but they still look great. And really, it's really all we've gotten since then. Like I know people have brought up the Mezco figures, which are pretty expensive. They did the airport zombie and the flyboy zombie and that. And those look great as well. Um, but man, for my money, for for what those figures are, those NECA figures. But I'm looking at them right now. I'm just like, oh yeah, those are cool. But yeah, I love those. And the day figures are just as cool too, just as good. Um, yeah, yeah, exactly. So H.G. Lewis was for gore, shock, and TNA, not quality. Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Since I was the right age for Friday 13th and early Freddy, not so much now. Yeah, that's how I was. Like when I grew up, like getting into horror and stuff, it was all Jason, Freddy. That was our thing growing up. Now I'm a little older and I've seen those a billion times at this point. It's just like, I can do without. It says Jason Goes to Hell is just awful. Part 6 originally had Jason's dad, but Paramount cut it out. I didn't know that. Long story. Yeah, I didn't know that about Part 6. I don't think it would have made the movie any better, but you know, is what it is. Jason Goes to Hell, though, yeah. Like I know, Matt and Michelle were both telling me that they kind of low key really like Jason Goes to Hell, but I remember watching it, trying to watch it years ago, and it was just like, it just wasn't what I was looking for. Maybe I can go back and watch it again now with an open mind and maybe give it another shot. But I just remember thinking that movie just looked like I don't know, like a made, like straight to home video type of look to it. And then the story was kind of goofy where he's like, transporting from person to person. And it's just like, this isn't a Friday the 13th movie. Um, but yeah, maybe I'll go back and give it another shot at some point. I thought I had it, but I only have the Friday the 13th collection on Blu-ray that's got like all the Paramount movies included. Doesn't have any of the New Line stuff, so um, yeah, maybe one day. Since this best thing about part 5 is Jason's namesake actress and her talents. Yes, Miss Voorhees. And I'm not talking about Betsy Palmer either. I'm talking about the other Miss Voorhees of the Friday the 13th series. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We know what you're talking about there. Maroon, as they say. Keeping it horses, the Dr. Tongue and Bub plushies by Twink. Twink? Is that what it is? Toy and K are cool too. I think I've seen those too. Yeah, I don't have either one of those, but I think I've come across those in the past before. I don't have a lot of plushies. That's not my go-to, but I did see a Creep Show Living Dead doll for a pretty good price on eBay earlier. I was like, maybe not. But what? Come on, what am I gonna do with that? Again, it's the same situation. It's like, God, I don't have any room for anything else right now. I gotta start selling some shit, maybe. Yeah, Michelle says I always like Jason Goes to Hell quite a bit. Matt and I are probably the only ones here who like it. I don't know. We'll see because I feel like Felsher's documentary comes out, and I feel like I hear people more and more, kind of putting that movie over and kind of liking it. So I don't know, but that was always kind of the thing, kind of like Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Growing up, it was always like, fuck that movie. When you're a kid, it's just like I don't want to watch that one. That doesn't even have Michael Myers in it. But now that as time goes on and you kind of get past that and you kind of realize like, okay, yeah, Season of the Witch is actually really good. Um, I don't know if Jason Goes to Hell will have that same effect, but we'll see. Um, love how so many franchises go to space to die. Friday the 13th, Leprechaun, Hellraiser, etc. Yeah, yeah. Still haven't had Freddy go to space yet. We haven't had Leatherface go to space. We'll see. We'll see. They just bought. I think A24 just bought the Texas Chainsaw series, so we'll see what they do with that. Maybe Leatherface will eventually go to space and make barbecue sandwiches up on the moon. Who knows? Let's see. Ed saying I like Kane Hodder as Jason, so his parts in it I did like. Yeah, the opening of Friday. I remember really liking the opening. Jason Goes to Hell, and Kane Hodder is the quintessential Jason, so it's kind of hard to beat. But the movie in and of itself, yeah, just never clicked with me. But like I said, this was years and years ago, and I never haven't even really given it a thought to go back and give it another shot. But we'll see. Vincent says Jason Goes to Hell is fun and has the tie-in ending for yeah, that was kind of the thing everybody always talked about when I was younger. It's like, oh, because then that was always the constant debate at school and the conversations you'd always have with your friends and shit. It's like, who'd win in a fight, Freddy versus Jason, And then we finally got the movie, and it was just like, oh, I didn't want to know. Like that was no, thank you. Yeah, that was always the big debate growing up. Like, who would win in a fight, Freddy versus Jason? Then somebody would throw in the one I always found interesting because I think I remember hearing that they were going to do do this at one point, but they were going to do Pinhead versus Michael Myers or something, or maybe that was like a comic series. I think that somebody did eventually, um, but yeah, those things are always more fun in theory. Like it's a fun video game idea as opposed to an actual movie where you actually got to have a story and make some kind of logical sense to it. Yeah, and when you get something like Freddy versus Jason, it's just like, okay, this doesn't quite work. Even when it came out, I remember thinking like, I don't know if this quite works or not. But yeah, good to see everybody. Let's get on some of these news topics here real quick, and then we'll get into Love Bites and kind of dig into a deep dive of the relationships and love in Romero's films and how they all, kind of came about and how they're all portrayed through the lens of George Romero. Yeah, we talk about Living Dead weekend. I wanted to bring it up because, like I said, the past few weeks I've had some guests on. Couldn't quite get to really dig in and talk about it. But Living Dead weekend tickets did go up, and they did sell out pretty quickly. The VIPs did. Let me rephrase that. The VIP tickets did sell out fairly quickly. I think they sold out within like a day of the VIP. So if you didn't get the VIP tickets then, you're probably not going to get them. Unless you can find them, aftermarket, if you can find somebody that's selling theirs that can't make it. Then again, be careful because you can be scammed pretty easily, especially if you're on like the Living Dead Weekend Facebook group or something like that. People all the time be on there, which Larry and the administrators on that do a pretty good job of of kind of weeding those out and kind of seeing like, oh, this person's full of shit. Like, okay, we're not going to let that comment go through. But sometimes they will. You can get scammed. That happened to me one time for a horror hound in Cincinnati. I thought I had bought some tickets from somebody in the horror hound group and on Facebook, and it ended up being a scam, and I didn't get shit for my money. So yeah, it sucks. You feel like a big fucking idiot when that happens. So be careful. But yeah, the VIPs are completely sold out at this point. Larry's tours, which I think originally he had 4 available, 1 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. All 4 of those sold out within a matter of like a week or 2, I think. So all those sold out, but they did eventually they did add 2 more tours to the weekend. So now there will be 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. So I think there are tickets still available for the late Sunday tour and the late Friday tour. So if you're going to Living Dead weekend, you want to take the tour. I still believe those are still available. I don't think those have sold out quite yet, but I fully expect them to eventually, especially if we get closer to the event. Yeah. So you get on those late Friday, late Sunday. I did get my ticket. We're going on the early Sunday tour again. This will be my 4th time taking Larry's tour, which I'm still excited about because it's like I told Larry, I was after the tour last time, I was like, dude, I really appreciate those tours because it's I've been on them before. I've seen them, but it's always so much fun because it gives me a chance to just kind of stop and take everything in, especially now, knowing what's going on with the mall and the limited time that we have at the mall. It's going to be really nice to just kind of stop and take it all in and just let Larry just tell us stories and talk about it. I love hearing that. So yeah, we'll be taking the early Sunday tour. If you guys are taking that early Sunday tour, I'll see you there. If not, like I said, there's still tickets available for the late Sunday and the late Friday. So you can get on that. And they've started announcing some of the guests as well. Which I'll pop up here. I'll bring up the Living Dead Weekend website and we'll all take a look together on this one. Let me get it to come up. Oh, that's a little screen. Let's switch those around. Let's do it this way. There we go. That looks a little better. So yeah, June 12th through the 14th, 2026. Oh, that's a cool little animation there. Good work, Daz. So yeah, they've started announcing the guests that are going to be there. Of course, we got the main 3 cast that we still got. Unfortunately, David just man, I wish I could have met David. Hated that I missed that, but we got the other 3. We got Scotty, we got Ken, we got Galen. It'd be cool to get all 3 of those together in the mall one last time. This is your opportunity. There's probably going to be some pretty cool. I fully expect the photo ops to go up for the bench photo op. The famous photo of all four main cast members sitting on the bench in the mall. Um, One of the best photo ops that you can get a Living Dead weekend. I fully expect those to come back this year, and if they do go up, I've never gotten one. I'm not a big photo op guy, but if they're available, definitely grabbing one of those photo ops this year, just to commemorate being there with those guys one last time in the shopping mall. Yeah, it must be done. It has to be done. Um, and of course, we got Mike Gornick's going to be there. Tom Savini's got to be there, of course. And this was a big one when they announced this. I know Paul Farber, he's going to be, he shit his pants when they announced this one. But John Harrison will be there. Of course, Screwdriver Zombie, did the music for Creepshow, Day of the Dead, director of Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. Like, the man's done all kinds of stuff. Loved him in effects. We talked about that last week with Felsher. So John Harrison will be there. This is the first time he's going to be there. I met him at a Living Dead weekend in 2022, I want to say. And he hasn't been back since. So I'm really excited, really glad that he's coming back this year for this show. So Harrison will be there. That's a big one. Of course, John Amplis is going to be there. Jim Crut, Helicopter Zombie. Warner Shook's coming back, thank God, because that's the one guy. He was there a few years ago, and I didn't get a chance to get a signature or anything from him, or even talk to him or meet him, because it seemed like every time I'd go by his table, he was gone. And he would come back. I'd see him walking through the mall with a bag from Macy's or something like that. He was just always constantly walking around shopping, it seemed like. But he's always, usually when he's there or anywhere. I know he was at Scream Scarefest in Lexington a couple of years ago. Typically when you see Warner, Christine is usually there as well, because they're still pretty good friends. So she hasn't been announced yet, but I'm hoping Christine can make it, because there are very few people more important to to not only Dawn of the Dead, but to to George's legacy than Christine, of course. So I'm hoping she'll be there. But yeah, looking forward to finally getting to meet Warner Shook in person and get his signature. We got Michael Lees, which I've never met Michael before. I think he's done a Living Dead weekend in the past. Of course, he's the brother of Lenny Lees over here, Machete Zombie. He's done some Living Dead weekends in the past, or one at least that I know of. But it's been quite some time, so it'll be cool to see him. Kathleen Feeney, of course, the Nun Zombie, was going to be there. Dan Berth is going to be there. Christopher Dean Sullivan. This is a big one for me. Mike Christopher finally coming to a Living Dead weekend. I've never met Mike. Of course, Harry Krishna Zombie. I got plenty of stuff that I need his signature on. So he's going to make a little bit of money from me, for sure. I got that Fluid 45 that I got Paul Mustard to sign a couple of years ago. I now need Mike's signature on it. Of course, the Harry Krishna Zombie figure, the NECA figure, definitely got to get a signature on that. But yeah, Mike hasn't really done a whole lot of conventions here over the past few years, ever since COVID, I think, for one reason or another. But I know that he went overseas and did the Weekend of the Dead over in the UK last year. And maybe I guess maybe that just ignited the spark and kind of got it back into him, where he's just like, yeah, fuck it, I'll do it. So I'm really glad to see he's going to be back. Roy Frumkus, which I'm a huge Roy Frumkus fan. I met him a couple years ago, got him to sign my Document of the Dead Blu-ray. But Document of the Dead, of course, you guys know, is one of my absolute favorite documentaries ever made. It's definitely the best Romero documentary ever made, in my opinion. And of course, he's the zombie that gets the pie in the face as well. So it's going to be cool to have Roy there for sure. Walter Cravo, Bobby Van Eman. Bill Smith's going to be there. I've never met him. And of course, the great Bob Michelucci. Bob's got to be there. You always got to have Bob there. So they're announcing the guests. They're rolling them out. The past few weeks, they've been, like I said, they've been listing 3 or 4 every week, it seems like. So, and I've heard some names that are being batted around, and there's some pretty cool ideas and some pretty cool names that are being shuffled around. So hopefully they'll get any and everybody that's available to be there to the mall for one last hurrah, one last reunion for Dawn of the Dead. I don't think they've announced any photo ops yet. They usually wait and announce those closer to the event, but that would definitely be some really cool ones. I'm sure. You have that many people from Dawn of the Dead in the mall from Dawn of the Dead. Like there's a ton that you can do photo op wise, which is the cool thing about Living Dead Weekend and the photo ops there. Like typically you go to a your typical um, your typical horror hound or whatever, and you go to a photo op and it's like they just shuffle you in like cattle, and you stand with the celebrity in front of a backdrop or a curtain or something like that. They snap a quick photo and then rush you off. This one, it's like, oh, we got props, and of course, they do a great job of like building sets to do these photo ops with the celebrities. Like it's really cool. They get really creative, and it's some really one of a kind photo ops that you can get at this convention. So but like I said, I'm not a big photo op guy, but if they do the bench photo op with the main three cast members, I'm doing it this year. It must be done. It must be done. Um, but yeah, looking forward to it. It's 4 months, little less than 4 months away now. So yeah, I can't wait. Can't fucking wait, as they say. Um, let's see. I'm try to catch up on the comments here. You guys going Living Dead Weekend? Who all's going to be at Living Dead Weekend? Who am I going to see? Like I said, I would love to get some type of live show or something together. If I can figure it out logistically, I'd love to do something like that. I'd love to just have a table and just set up a mic and just hit the button, go live, and just whoever walks up, come on over, sit down, grab the mic for 10-15 minutes, and tell me about your weekend. I'd love to do something like that, but again, it goes to it's a logistical thing. It's like you got to have the equipment and the bandwidth and the Wi-Fi or whatever you need to do that. So I don't know, just ideas, just thoughts. I don't know. People talking. Oh, Ed, I didn't know that. Do a Jason cosplay around here. Kane is who I somewhat model myself after. There you go. I didn't know that. Very cool. Yeah, that's right, Jeff. All Larry's tours are sold out too. They added 2 extra ones. That's right. So Friday night and Sunday evening, because I think they have to close it up a little earlier on Sunday. But yeah, two tours still available. But yeah, those sold out pretty quick, and I had a feeling that they were, because I've heard from so many people that they're like, I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there this year. I'm coming. I'm coming. And yeah. So I think it's gonna be a big show. It's gonna be a big show that you don't want to miss for sure. Speaking of the man himself, Larry, what's going on, man? I was just watching you. I was just watching that Crazies Blu-ray from Arrow, and I was watching your locations bonus feature. I've never been to quite a few of those locations. I'm gonna have to check those out for sure. But yeah, Larry says, yeah, it's a lot of tours, bro. Yeah. Larry's. This may be the last. Not only will it be the last Living Dead weekend for for the mall or for the Dawn reunion, but it may be the last time we ever see Larry again, because he may just crawl behind a dumpster behind the mall and just go, like he's done for. Because if you've ever taken Larry's tour, he puts so much energy and enthusiasm into. It's like a 3-hour tour, man. Like you get your money's worth for sure. And Larry puts so much of himself into these tours. Like him doing 3 in over a weekend span is a lot. Like 6, God bless you, sir. God bless you, man. Yeah, and that's right. When the movie screening tickets go up for sale, they will sell out that day. Stay tuned. Yeah, I have a game plan in mind for that. I'm definitely gonna keep an eye out, and as soon as they go up, give me a secret heads up, and let me know when they go on sale. We'll just do that, Larry. Come on, be a pal. Because of course, everybody wants to see Dawn of the Dead one last time in the mall. And of course, everybody assumed that the screening of Dawn that they had back in October was probably going to be the last time because of Rubenstein and his way of doing business and his rules and whatnot. But if they are able to get Dawn one more time, one last screening in the mall, then yeah, those tickets are gonna they're gonna sell out fast. So So yeah, we'll get on that as soon as they come out. If that's the case, who knows? Roy Frumpkus is going to be there, do a screening of Document of the Dead. I would love to see that in the mall. Even that's a great idea, actually. You guys should do that. I don't know if it'd be like a real crowd pleaser or not, but I don't. Document of the Dead with Roy Frumpkus introducing the film. Let's do it. Larry's thanks for always taking my tours. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, man, it's great. Like I said, this is my 4th time, so I'm still looking forward to it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I always have a ton of fun on those tours. Um, and it's just like I said, it's just great to stop and take it in and just kind of visualize everything and just take a moment to, you know, put yourself in the film in the mall. Um, yeah, can't wait, can't wait. Michelle says the only time we're going to see you, Larry, is as you go by and on that Sunday morning tour. Yeah, that's true. It probably will be the only time we'll see Larry all weekend long. Because he's going to be busier than a one-arm paper hanger all weekend long. Yeah, you better bring some electrolytes, cocaine, whatever you gotta do, man. Prepare. Yeah, Larry says he's gonna be busy the entire show for sure. Jeff says, any news about photo ops with anyone? No, not that I've seen yet, but stay tuned. Like I said, they usually announce those closer to the event once they have kind of everybody announced, so they can kind of say, okay, if you have it's a photo op with these cast members, photo op with these cast members. So I would expect those to be announced closer to the event. Matt says, seeing Larry's love and attention to detail on the tours are worth the price of admission alone. 100% agree. 100% agree. Yeah, and it's one of those things where, you're thinking like, oh, 3-hour tour, you're just looking at a mall, and the mall's changed a lot over the years. So a lot of it, very little looks as it did back in 77 when they shot the film. But Larry does just a masterful job of like taking you back and like putting the dawn glasses on for you and just being like, okay, if you look here, you can match up the marble. This is where this shot happened. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, yeah, I'm here. Like this is this is the fucking mall. Yeah, it's definitely worth the price of admission. Jeff says, yeah, I definitely have to have one of those without question. Or the photo op, the bench photo op. Yeah. Yeah. Gotta do it. Gotta do it. Like I said, I'm not a big photo op guy, but that's one that's a must. Larry said, I think there's a kiosk now in the spot where the bench is supposed to be. Might have to substitute a different spot if that photo op. Fuck the kiosk, man. Just move it. We'll all get together and just push that fucker out of the way. What are they gonna do? Warner was just going zombie shopping. Yeah, yeah. Jeff says, I'm so excited for this convention as much as I was for the Zombie Jamboree, if not more. Man, I'm jealous that you actually got to go to the Zombie Jamboree back in the day. That's pretty fucking awesome. But yeah, man, I think you're gonna have a hell of a time because it's unlike any other type of convention or anything out there. It's something. It's more of just like a communal hangout, and all the celebrity guests are all there just to be there. It seems like most of them, they love seeing each other as much as they love, uh, they love just revisiting and seeing each other again. And it's more of a family atmosphere, I guess is what I'm trying to say, as opposed to like your typical, bigger horror conventions. That's for sure. Matt says I may do another bench photo op to do a then and now comparison, a comparison shot of a comparison shot. There you go. Yeah, and of course we all look forward to the yearly Landrum hallway run, which is funny when you look at those comparisons from year to year. It's like your son is just like, oh, okay, yep, he's towering over you now. He has surpassed you. So, Michelle says Michael was there for the 45th anniversary in 2023. Was he? I don't remember. I can't remember that. I remember Lenny being there, but I don't know. For some reason, I must have missed Mike. Larry says Mike Christopher came out in 2018, 2019, Living Dead Weekend, but has not come out since. Yeah, my first one was 2021, and he hasn't been to anyone since then. So looking forward to that. Matt says I've got a few things signed by Mike Christopher, but never met him in person. Lots of killer guests so far. Yeah, I got an 8x10 signed by Mike Christopher that my cousin gave me just as a gift. He got in like one of the like mail, like the screen boxes or whatever that they would mail to you, just full of like random stuff, and it included an autographed 8x10 from Mike Christopher. So I have that, but I have nothing else. I've never met him, never got anything signed by him. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, that's right. Roy Frumkus, writer of Street Trash as well. Yeah, which is that's an interesting one. I actually watched for the first time not long ago. That's a gross out 80s horror film. It's fun though. It's if nothing else, it's definitely fun. Yes, Larry says lots more guests to come. Lots. Yeah, I think was it you or said there's gonna be like 60 to 70 guests in total this year. So yeah, there's a lot more coming. A lot more. We still got 4 months to go, and like I said, they've been announcing 3, 4, 5 guests a week. So looking forward to seeing who else you guys can bring out to it. Yeah, absolutely. Just as I like to get one with Tom with the motorcycle if he's going to be there. Oh yeah, I'm sure that'll be because they usually do that. That's like a yearly photo op that they do with the motorcycle and the sword. So I'm sure that'll be available. Michelle says the photo ops are my favorite, but if you know me, I mean that makes total sense. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's one of those things for me. It's just like I mean, I don't even like taking a lot of photos with like if I meet somebody at their table and they're like, they've been like, oh, do you want to take a photo? And I'm just like, nah, it's fine. I just want to have, I just want to talk to you for a second and get your signature and all that. But yeah, it's fine. Um, murmur 609. I've never been. This is so tempting. Yeah, man. If you've never been, make the trip because there's only going to be time's running out. Time's out. There's not going to be many more in the mall for sure. So yeah, if you've never been, definitely come. Like I said, it's a great time. It's a family atmosphere. It's laid back. It's if you're a Dawn of the Dead fan, if you're a horror fan in general, like you're at the Mecca, you're at the mall with everybody from the movie and all this stuff going on. Like yeah, it's yeah, I highly recommend it, man. Love your name, by the way. Did I do that right? A mur. How many murs? What do I? 3 murs? Okay. I'll keep that in mind if you comment again. 3 murs. Jeff says I'm going to be there. Looking forward to meeting everyone in person too. Hell yeah, man. Looking forward to finally meeting you. Yeah. Michelle works all year long for this moment. So she works tons of overtime, saves as much money as possible, and this is like Living Dead Weekend is like, her sole destination every year, which was what makes Michelle so cool. It's really the only trip that I ever plan to take every year either. So I've mentioned it before. I'm not much of a beach guy. I don't really. Oh, I'm not much of a vacation guy either. In general, like I'm not much of like, oh, I need to go soak up some sun, or I need to take a vacation and just sit and do nothing. Like I would go crazy. I can't just sit and do nothing for days at a time. Um, yeah, I can't. Since says I can try to be more interview style for a couple of live vids, considering the occasion. Yeah, man, Synth is definitely has Living Dead Weekend covered every year that he's been there. If you guys haven't checked it out, go check out his channel. Which congratulations, Synth just hit 1,000 subscribers the other day. So congratulations, you definitely deserve that, man. Because I've called you before, the hardest working man on YouTube. You're everywhere, always doing something. So congratulations on that, man. Definitely deserved. Yeah, everybody go check out Synth's channel and check out all of his Pittsburgh and Living Dead Weekend videos from the past. If you, like I said, if you haven't been and you're curious of what it's like, what the environment's like, there's to me there's nothing better out there to get that than over on Synth's channel. So go check out those videos for sure. Uh, working on Grande every day to come. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, definitely. If Grande can get there again, like for sure. Love that kid. Um, I know he was a little hesitant about it back then. He's like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'll have the ability to. I'm just like, no, dude, you gotta come. You gotta come. But yeah, Grande, get your ass back to Pittsburgh, sir. Jeff says I've watched them on YouTube and they're so cool. I can't wait to actually do one in person with him and everyone. Hell yeah, let's do it. Larry says I usually don't know when the tickets go up for sale. I don't ask. I usually see them when everybody else does. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe that. Well, I typically keep a close eye. I don't do a whole lot on Facebook. I'm not very I really am not very active on social media, which, just is what it is. But I do keep my eye on shit in the Romero groups and especially Living Dead Weekend. So I'm usually pretty good about catching shit immediately when it's posted in that group. So um but as soon as I know, as soon as I see something, I will let everybody on the channel that follows the channel know. I'll post it in the community section. So keep an eye out for that as well. So um I don't know what you're referring to, but I appreciate it. I don't know what that great idea was, but um I get behind on these comments, guys. I apologize. Michelle says I will go to whatever screening they have. Absolutely. Yeah. Hell of the Living Dead. That's what we need. We need Hell of the Living Dead. Tribute. This looks so awesome. A stack lineup one last time in the mall. Wish I could be there. I hope everyone has a safe, wonderful time. Man, you got to get there, man. I'd love to meet you as well. Um, one of these days, man. One of these days. If we can't make it this year, we'll figure something out someday. But you, Bonnie, I gotta meet Bonnie sometime, man. Y'all gotta come. What I need to do, I need to get. I would love to just have like a big gathering. Like, okay, guys, Friday night after the show, everybody meet at this bar. Like, if you're a fan of this channel, you follow this channel, like, let's all meet up at a bar and just have a drink and just fucking party. Let's just hang out. Let's do what we do on here in person. Um, that would be my goal. That's what I would love to do. Um, but it's so hard, man. It's so hard. I run into so many people at the Living Dead Weekend that follow the channel, and I'd love to just spend so like all the time in the world with everybody, but it's like so much going on, and there's so much to do, and they got things to do, and I'm doing certain things, and it's just like it's hard to catch up with everybody all at one time. So if I could just like schedule like, okay, after party here, everybody come, bring an Iron City, and that'd be the ideal situation in my opinion. I agree. Larry's one, like I said, Larry's one of the main reasons I started doing this channel, and love this stuff as much as I do. Is guys like him and Norman England, Felsher, Blasey, like those guys. Their love and passion for this stuff is what I grew up on. Um, so yeah, it's really really cool. Um, yeah, the Landrum hallway run. Yeah, it's a yearly tradition. It's a yearly tradition. Matt saying, "Yep, this year's going to be the last hallway run with my son. Hard to not get emotional about that." Yeah, man. Yeah, it's yeah. I couldn't imagine. I think about that all the time with my daughter Everly. I look at her all the time, just like already she's about like chest height. Like she's tall. She's a tall child. And I look back on the old photos from 2021 when I took her to the mall, and she's still just like an 8-month-old baby. And I look back now and just like, God, they grow up fast. They grow up fucking fast, man. Um, Uh, it says get George's son with a beard, glasses, and long hair. He'd look just like him. They both have that dimple. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Are you talking about George Cameron, or Andrew Romero? Which Drew I know. Last I knew, he still lived in Pittsburgh. Um, yeah, it'd be cool. It'd be cool to get some Romero. Which Tina was there in October. Which I kind of regret not meeting her at the time, but it was like Sunday and I was exhausted and I was just like, I'm ready to go home. Like, I gotta go. It was a long drive and I had to work the next day. Um, Yeah, man. Yeah, congratulations, Sent. Yeah, 1,000 subs. Thanks, man. Thank you. Thank you. I love doing this channel, man. It's definitely it keeps me sane for sure. This is like my favorite time of the week every week. I love getting on here and just spending a couple hours just talking about the shit I love to talk about. Because then, of course, we all know tomorrow you go back to work and it's the real world and it's, back to real life. But I love having something to work on, something to contribute, and something to, just kind of that creative outlet. I have to have it. If I wasn't doing this channel, if I was just like, I think about that all the time. Like, man, is it about time to kind of wrap it up here? Like, how much longer are people going to give a shit about, me talking about George Romero? Like, is it about time to start, winding down and, just, doing something else? And just like, nah, I don't know what else I would do. Like, there's nothing else I would want to do. And if I stopped doing this and just, had nothing to work on or nothing to keep me occupied, I'd probably just lose my mind. It's just, I don't know, but I appreciate it, man. I really do. Um, John, what's going on, man? I'm here a bit late because I was at Karis, but I made it. Yeah, good to see you, man. You missed the past couple of weekends. Some really good conversations that I think you'd get a lot out of. But yeah, man, hope you're doing well. Look forward to seeing you and your. I hope you had a good Valentine's Day with your lady. Look forward to hopefully meeting her at Living Dead weekend. Um, since says Alpha needs a beach with a helicopter calendar and a Sharpie. That's the one beach I'll give me to Sanibel. Yeah, that's the one beach that I want to go to. I'll definitely. I'm happy to go to Florida and visit the beaches if it's Fort Myers, but outside of that, I don't care. Um, Recreate the Brown Derby. Yeah, let's do that. Bonnie says, "Wish I could go. Bad timing for me." Yeah, I understand. I understand definitely. But one of these days, Bonnie, one of these days, I got to meet you in person. I know you're up in the Chicago area. If they have, I know they do Horror Hound up in Chicago or Days of the Dead. I think they do in Chicago sometimes. If you ever go to one of those, let me know. I might make the trip up. Just to say hi, because that to me, like that's the most exciting. That's the most exciting thing about going to like Living Dead weekend and stuff is actually getting to meet people that I've communicated with and talked to on here for so long, and then meeting them in person, like like meeting Brett in person for the first time, and the zombie historian met him and his family last year, Living Dead weekend. Like it's just so cool to just put a face to the names, and um, Colin, Mike from Baltimore, like just it's cool. I don't know. Michelle says, I trust my group chat. I know you guys will post update on screens and photo ops if you see them before me. Yeah, well, I'll let everybody know as soon as I know. And if anybody sees it before me, let me know. Um, Zombie Historian, what's going on, man? Finally back to the low 70s here in South Florida. Zombie compound, hell yeah. Hoping everyone's staying warm. My sister says hello. It's actually pretty nice here. We're going to be up in the 70s here in Indiana too this week. So it's almost like here in Indiana, it's like we had that foot and a half of snow, and the highs were 5 for a couple of weeks. And it's just like it's almost like winter just kind of shot at shot and was just like, all right, I'm done. And now we're back to spring. Of course, I say that. Then of course, come March, we're gonna have another blizzard or something. But yeah, it hasn't been too bad here the past few days, and it's supposed to be pretty nice coming up. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Although it's fucking up my sinuses and I feel like it's killing me, but you know. Um, hey, don't tempt me. Don't tempt me, Sant. I'm gonna have you back on here. We're gonna be doing another watch along of fucking my Uncle John was a zombie or something like that, which I haven't seen yet. So that's definitely one if you're interested. I'm definitely down to do. Um, Larry says a lot of Russo original art has been popping up on eBay. Alpha should show some. It's killer. Interesting. Russo original art on eBay. Hmm. Now you've piqued my interest. I know he's been selling a lot of stuff. Like I know he was selling like a banner that he had from some show that he did some time back. Let me look this up. John Russo art. See, you piqued my interest here. I wonder what pops up. And that's not John Russo. John Russo's Almost Dead. What is that? Is that a band? Night of Living Dead poster signed by Russo, Gary, and Russ Striner. No. I'm not seeing anything. There's a book, Scare Tactics, the Art, Craft, and Trade of writing, producing, and directing chillers and thrillers, written by John Russo. That'd be interesting to read. Anyway, I'm not seeing any of his original art on here. Maybe I'm not putting in the right shit. Anyway, if you got a link, put it in the chat. I'll check it out. Might be interesting. Steven says, I can only imagine what Alpha would sing if there was a karaoke at the bar. Barry Manilow, Hanson, the Backstreet Boys, or Pat. What do you like? What do you think I am? Like, Jesus, what is this? Like, what kind of perspective do you have, or perception of me? Jeez, I could do some Backstreet Boys or some Hanson, but I'd prefer not to. Patsy Cline is not bad, so I like a little Patsy Cline. Barry Manilow, I don't know about that. That ain't me, but yeah, Living Dead weekend. Like I said, VIPs are sold out, but tickets, regular like weekend passes are not going to sell out. So tickets are still available. If you go, you'll be able to get tickets for that. But like I said, if you plan on trying to buy VIP tickets secondhand, be careful because there are some sketchy ass shit out there, especially on Facebook. So, but yeah, so Living Dead weekend coming up. Also wanted to talk about these Day of the Dead figures. I'm going to show these off. The pre-order is up. If you guys are interested, we've kind of touched on them earlier, so I won't spend too long on these. But I'll show them off here. We'll look at kind of what they're going for and share the screen here. So yeah, Trick or Treat Studios. Oh, there's a little screen. Let's make it the big screen. There we go. So yeah, pre-order is up for all 4 of these right now, $29.99 a piece. So we're looking at $120 for all, which I think Jeff said he spent $130 total. So I guess with like tax and everything, it's gonna hit about $130. We'll take a look at these now. The face here on Sarah, it's something else. I don't know about the detail on that, but still cool, still cool nonetheless. It comes with the revolver, and what else does she come with? Oh yeah, the zombie corral pole thing. So yeah, limited quantity available. Pre-order ends in 24 days, 19 hours. So yeah, we still got about a month left, a little less than a month on the pre-orders here. Estimated shipping March 23rd, 2026. So these should be out by I would guess probably late March, early April. So not bad. So you got the Sarah. This is a cool one, Captain Rose, and I don't know if he comes apart. I don't know if anybody has heard anything about that in the chat. Let us know. But I remember hearing that as like a rumor sometime back. But of course, you got the two revolvers there in the M16. Rhodes looks pretty cool. Which Trick or Treat Studios, I don't think I own any figures from Trick or Treat Studios. I do have the bust, the airport zombie bust that they did some years back, which looks amazing. It's one of my favorite Dawn of the Dead collectibles that I have. So these would actually be the first figures that I would actually be buying from them. This is probably my favorite, the Dr. Tongue figure. It comes with it doesn't have so the alligator doesn't have the mouth tape shut or anything, so which I guess you could do that on your own if you wanted to do that, like take a piece of string or something and tie it around the alligator's mouth. Comes with a newspaper as well. So yeah, all these $30 a piece, a little more than I was hoping for. I was hoping, which maybe I'm just out of the loop on what these things typically go for, but I was hoping $20 a piece 25 at the most, where you could get all 4 for $100. But 30 is, 30 is 30, I guess. Of course, you got Bub there. So yeah, pre-order is up now. Still got about 25 days to go on this pre-order. I'm guessing they'll still be available after the pre-order is done. So I don't know if you have to get them now or if you can wait until after. But I would say, if you want them, get them, get them while you can. Which I'm typically not a big fan of pre-ordering shit. I don't know if it's just old school mentality or something, but I don't. I don't like giving somebody my money and not getting a product in return. You know what I mean? Like, I like to know that the shit's made and ready to ship, and I'm like, okay, here's my money, send it to me. I don't like the idea of like, okay, here's my money, and then send them to me when you get them. Like, good luck. Which a lot of stuff is pre-order now, which is why one of the big reasons why I didn't get any of the Zola World Night of the Living Dead figures. And I'm kind of glad I didn't, because it's taken so long. It's taken over a year for them to get them out, and I'd been kind of pissed if I'd have given them my money and not really had any updates on those things for a while. But they are coming out. But yeah, what do you guys think? Who's getting these? Is it a pass for you? Are you getting all 4? Are there a couple that you want? One that you want? Trick or Treat's got some pretty cool stuff here. Like I said, I'm not a big collector of their stuff, but hey, Leprechaun. Speaking of Leprechaun, Maniac Cop. It's pretty cool. Terrifier, which, God, there's so much Terrifier shit now. Oh fuck, Chuck Norris. Is that a Chuck Norris? Hell yeah, Chuck Norris action figure. It's pretty cool. So yeah, it looks like typically most of their figures go for about 30, so that's about par for the course. Ooh, a Clarence Boddicker RoboCop figure. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Where else are you gonna find that, I guess? I was like, what the fuck is that? And I was like, okay, the Trick or Treat. I remember that guy from Trick or Treat. But I was thinking it was like fucking what's his face? Kurt Russell. I don't know. Kurt Russell from fucking Hateful Eight or something like that. But yeah, what do you guys think? You guys picking these suckers up? Yeah, Sarah's figure face looks like Patrick Swayze. Kinda, yeah. It does kind of have a Patrick Swayze kind of look to it, doesn't it? Matt says, I thought so. I remember seeing there being a Rhodes prototype that broke apart, but I don't think this one does. Yeah, I could have swore I remember hearing that, but like I said, I haven't heard anything else about it since. They haven't really promoted that aspect of the figure. So, yeah, I don't know. I can't. I'm assuming that it doesn't. It was just kind of a rumor or an idea that was thrown out there. Stephen says the face on Sarah reminds me of the original 80s G.I. Joe Scarlet. Wasn't their best work. The Rhodes sculpt is pretty good. Yeah, the Rhodes sculpt is definitely better than the Sarah for sure. Yeah, that may be something, if you take them out of the package, at least that may be something you can do on your own. But Jeff says, yeah, man, I saw the prototype photo too. I can't find it now, but I did see it. I could maybe it's one of those things. What do they call that? The what do they call it? Where everybody is thinks that they experienced something or that they saw something that wasn't there. What do they call that? The Mandela effect. Maybe it was a Mandela effect thing, because I could have swore the same thing, that they were like, oh, this figure tears apart and you can pull his guts out, and I'm like, oh, that's fucking cool. But maybe they switched their minds on that one. I don't know. Okay, Russo art examples. Is there a way? I don't know if there's a way that I can click on that link here on my end, here on StreamYard, at least. I'll definitely check those out after the stream, if nothing else, because I've never heard of that. I had no idea Russo even did artwork. What are they going for? Are they decently priced? I might buy something, honestly, if it's a Russo original, because I am a a Russo fan to some extent. Just search for Russo sketch. Okay. It says I like to collect stuff on of the time. I buy some newer things, but it's just not as fun as ground hunting or eBay archaeology. I kind of agree with that. But the thing with that is like you go back and you spend a shit ton of money on some of this stuff. But um, I'm kind of like you. I kind of like the hunt, and I kind of like finding stuff in the wild. I much prefer, like, to me, it means so much more to find the Flyboy NECA figure at a flea market as opposed to just like, okay, I found it on eBay, order, ship it to me. Like, it's cool to have, but it's also like the story of like, oh, I was just wandering around and I found this, Iron City can or something. Like stuff like that is like, oh, that's gets me excited. I do love the hunt for sure. Um, Rhodes is smaller than his rifle. Yeah, I kind of noticed that too. Yeah, that's a big ass rifle. Which Rhodes, I think, is kind of the Napoleon thing, or he's kind of a smaller guy. If you ever saw Joe Pilato in person, he is kind of a smaller guy. So that might be true to scale. I don't know, but maybe not so much. But Michelle saying pass, but mostly because of the exchange rate and the shipping/custom fees would kill me. Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. I agree. I agree. Um, for the price that you would pay for them, I'd probably skip them. Which 120 here in the States is still pretty steep for all four of these, but there aren't really, especially the Rhodes and the Sarah figures, there aren't officially licensed figures like that in the States beforehand. So I kind of gotta have them. I kind of gotta have them. Right. Bitches leave. Love him in that. One of the best villains in any movie ever is Clarence in fucking RoboCop, and of course it's Fred Foreman. So growing up, like I was like when I was a kid, I used to watch RoboCop, and then I saw him in that '70s show, and I was just like, oh, it's the dude from fucking RoboCop. Great guy. Fuck, what's his name? Kurtwood Smith. Great villain. Steven says back in the day, I had the Chuck Norris Karate Commando figures. They were about $4 a pop back then. Oh yeah, take me back. I remember those. I had the Schwarzenegger Commando figure that you could take all his clothes off, and it just had him in his boots and his underwear, and his the black marking across the body. Remember, I had that one when I was a kid. Yeah, Mandela effect. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it is just Mandela effect. We all thought we saw that, and then it's like we're all crazy. I don't know. Um, Jeff says I'm surprised NECA didn't do the figures. I love NECA figures. Yeah, those are some of the best in my opinion. Those always look great. Which if NECA had done those now, we're probably looking at $50 per figure. I would guess. But speaking of this, I did want to share this as well. Because I did see this. So Bob O'Rourke was in one of the groups on Facebook, and he posted these the other day. I had no idea that these were coming out from Trick or Treat Studios as well. Let me remove that. I do have the photos here. So apparently at Toy Fair or something that was going on this weekend, Trick or Treat Studios also announced, if I can find them. They have some new figures coming down the pike. Where the fuck did I put them? I thought I put them in a folder somewhere here on my computer. I have the photos of them. Hold on. I'm ill prepared. Desktop. What did I do with them? Well, shit. I could have swore I had them. The anticipation is building. Hold on, everybody. Where did they go? Where did they go? What did I do with them? No, 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 no. Fucking hell. You gotta be kidding me. I literally put them in a folder. But they are nowhere to be fucking found. I have so much junk on this computer, guys. You have no idea. Because this is I use this computer for like all the videos and shit I do on the channel. I have so many just random photos and random videos, and it's a mess. Well, I guess I'll just go ahead and just tell you what the hell it is. I was going to show you, but I don't have the goddamn pictures handy. Here, let me see if I can grab them real quick. But I'll go ahead and tell you. Apparently, Trick or Treat Studios is also coming out with a series of Creepshow figures as well, which I had no idea about. Which if I can find them. Okay, I don't think I have them. Well, fuck. Anyway, so yeah, Trick or Treat Studio is doing the Creepshow figures as well. They're doing a one for each story, and honestly, it's cool. I'm glad they're doing it. I'm glad that we're getting more Romero stuff, but these are probably going to be a hard pass on here for me, just for the simple fact that I already have all those Creepshow figures that who did those figures? Was it Amic Time, the Monstars collection over there? I have all those already. And it's all they're pretty much re-releasing all the same ones. They're doing, the crate, the fluffy figure, they're doing the Richard and Becky something to tide you over figures. There you go. Matt just put the link in there. I can't click on any of these links in here in the chat on my end. So there's a link. If you guys want to check them out, you can do that. I would love to put them up here, but I'm ill prepared. I could have swore I had those pictures. I put them in a folder, literally, to show them, but they're just the prototypes. They're not painted or anything yet. But I don't know where the hell they went. So my apologies, everybody. Yeah, I don't know where the hell where they went, but yeah, there's a link there if you guys want to check them out on Facebook. Matt's throwing in there. I think you can click them on YouTube, but on my end here on StreamYard, I can't click on any of the links or anything on here. I would. But yeah, they're probably hard. They're probably going to be a hard pass for me just because I have all the ones that Monstars already put out. They're doing the Creep and they're the Nathan Grantham Father's Day figure. Pretty cool stuff. So if you didn't get your hands on the Monstars figures, which those go for a little bit of money now, they'll be coming out next year, 2027. So keep an eye out for those. Yeah, that pisses me off. I feel very unprofessional right now. So I gotta check out these Russo sketches. $60 a piece for these things. You gotta seem to believe it. All right, hold on. It's going off the rails here. Because now I gotta see Russo sketches. Let's see what pops up here. Are you fucking serious? What is this? Has he? All right, I'm gonna share this. You guys got to see this shit. Larry was not kidding. Hold on. What in the fuck is he doing? So apparently these are hand-drawn sketches that John Russo is currently selling. I don't know if is it Russo selling? It's Eliza's treasure chest. I don't think that's Russo, but the Russo sketches that he is selling or are being sold on eBay. I'm not gonna say Russo is selling them, but yeah. So let's play a game, everybody. Who is this? We're playing Romero trivia. Can anybody tell me who this is? Is this sharing? Can you guys see this? Oh, hold on. It took me to a different window. Share this tab instead. There we go. That worked. Can anybody tell me who this is supposed to be a sketch of? I'm thinking, is it supposed to be Russo from Night of the Living Dead? Is it supposed to be the Russo zombie from Night of the Living Dead? What in the world? Any guesses? Yes, continue as Michael. Wow. They're on canvas too. Signed, certified. There's a part of me that kind of wants to buy one of these. Oh, here's a good one. Anybody have a guess who this guy is? Who is that supposed to be? What is the story with this, Larry? Do you know what these are from? What they were supposed to be? Yeah, man. These are what? Yeah, Michelle. I have no words. Yeah, I don't know what is this. Matt said, "Is John Russo a serial killer because that's what he looks like?" Serial killers. Yeah, they do. They look like the shit you see on like the evening news of like this is what the serial killer looks like. If you see him, call someone. I'm guessing these are supposed to be characters from movies, Night of the Living Dead. Anybody? Well, they're for sale. If you want one, they're available on eBay right now for the low price. 75 between 60 and 75. Some are 60, some are 75. That is interesting. Here's a good one. Whoa. $60. Hey, 48 with the coupon code. So there you go. Who can say no? Wow. This one's actually kind of cool. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but it looks like Indiana Jones at the beginning of The Last Crusade with a cigarette. I don't know. It does. It says Night of the Living Dead 1968. So I'm assuming these are supposed to be, or were these? Did Russo do these in 68? Because if that's the case, then I might actually get one of these just for the hell of it. I'd love to know what the story is about this. Okay, I'm kind of down a rabbit hole now. Vampire Girl. There you go. There's a ton of these things on here. How many are there? Okay, so I think this is the last one. Wow. I guess the question has to be asked. How stoned was Russo when he did these? Pretty fucking stoned, I would have to guess. Like, oh, okay, so they are supposed to be people from Night of the Living Dead. Larry says that's supposed to be Dick Heckard with the hat. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah, the bottom looked like the 30th anniversary. That's kind of what I thought. Steven says that poor canvas brought into existence to feature works of art. Instead, the drunken scribbles of a man whose 15 minutes of fame died many years ago. Damn, Steven, you ain't got to go that hard. Wow. It says, okay, serial killer joke. Why did Jeffrey Dahmer love ice cream? Because he could eat half and put the other half in the freezer. Okay. Very good. Yeah. Interesting is the word, says Bonnie. Yeah, Larry said I have no info on them. I just spotted them and thought you might like them. Yeah, that's interesting. That is definitely interesting. Yeah, that's definitely ask Phil. He can probably tell who these people are. That'd be a good game to play. Get John on here. Just see him chiming in here. Have him try to guess who's who on these Russo sketches. Wow. So the vampire girl, I guess that was supposed to be. Is that supposed to be Kyra? I don't know who the hell else that was supposed to be then. If these are all from Night of the Living Dead. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, if anybody's looking for a Christmas gift or a birthday gift idea for Vulo, we know you know where to look. Russo sketches on eBay. Wow. Jeez Louise. Didn't expect to see that. Larry says there's also some night AI art on eBay now too. But yeah, no thanks on that. No thanks on that. Which I'm not, I use AI on the channel. It's pretty obvious for some of the thumbnails and stuff like that. But I've come around on it a little bit. I think it does kind of, it's kind of like what George Dimick was saying when I talked to him about AI. It does kind of level the playing field a little bit if you don't have all the money in the world to invest in making your stuff look good. It's if you got access to AI, it is a nice little tool to have handy if you need it. But but yeah, the AI artwork and stuff that people are actually like selling, like I'm just like, come on. How much work did you really put into that? Let's be honest. Yeah. All right. Well, that was an interesting aside. Fucking didn't expect to see that. Sorry if I missed some of the comments. I kind of scrolled around there, but I did see. Where was that comment? Where'd he go? The Masked Fondler was back in here. Griff. Yeah, I missed Grift here. Griff. Hey, gang, Griff here, driving through the Outback Mad Max style while listening in. No, Marauders. All the way from Australia. What's up, Griff? Good to see you. And you asked about Jim O'Rear. No, unfortunately, no Jim O'Rear action figures available yet. Not yet. So, but hey, stick around, stay tuned, as they say, right? Yeah. Heard it was an empty box. That's an interesting story. I should have brought that up to Blasey when I had him on. I asked him about the great Jim O'Rear, but yeah. So that's kind of what's been going on. Of course, I wish I had the photos from the Creepshow figures to show, but like I said, they're still prototypes. They're not even painted yet, so I'm sure we'll get more as time comes. But Matt put the link in the chat if you guys want to check them out. Like I said, probably going to be a pass for me, but that's just because I already have the ones which I think is interesting that they're doing the day figures and doing the Creepshow figures immediately afterwards. So I guess it's Taurus Entertainment owns both of those properties, so they probably had a deal with Taurus to do both. I guess they're still called Taurus Entertainment, right? They used to be bought all the shit from the United Film distribution back in the day. I guess it's still Taurus that's doing all that. Anyway, so yeah, but I did, like I mentioned earlier, I did want to get to this. I thought this would be kind of an interesting little deep dive to go into tonight. It's kind of our main event topic for tonight. Valentine's Day yesterday, of course. The topic for tonight is love bites. I think it's I don't know, kind of a cute little term. But I thought it'd be kind of an interesting deep dive to kind of take a look at the history of the portrayal of love and relationships throughout Romero's filmography throughout the years. Because I think it's interesting. I think you can kind of tell a lot of George's mentality and the way that he kind of thought of relationships at the time. Because I mean, you got to think George was married what 4 times, so George had kind of been through the gambit, and and all the different stages of relationships and marriage and parenthood and all that. Hey Rick, the North Going Llama. I had to pop you up there just 'cause I had to say your name. Good to see you, man. Hate missing a few hours of good discussion in chat. No worries, man. We're still here. We're still rolling. So, but always good to see you, and always good to say your name. But yeah, Love Bites. Oh, it's a Def Leppard song. Okay, I didn't know that. I'm not a big Def Leppard fan, but yeah, thought it'd be an interesting little topic to discuss here tonight and get you guys' thoughts on, and kind of give my thoughts on the use of relationships throughout Romero's films, and the different portrayals of that through the different combinations of actors. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to look up a file here. I'm trying to pull up an image file. It's all going to shit tonight already, but let's hope that I still have these on hand and prepared to go, which I do. So, okay, good. But I think it's interesting to look at the portrayal of marriage in Romero's films. I think that's a good place to start because there's some interesting marriages in Romero's films, and what better place to start than with, of course. Oh, there we go. I like that. That works. The Cooper family, Harry and Helen Cooper, are the loving marriage, the loving couple of Harry and Helen from Night of the Living Dead. Which, when you look at Night of the Living Dead, of course, Marilyn Eastman and Carl Hardman were actually married in real life. They were an actual item in real life, so it kind of worked out that way. But I always found it interesting the relationship between these two in the film. Because of course Harry is very, he wants control. He wants to, write the rules, and he's trying to get some control of the situation. But his wife, I think the Helen character is interesting because she's kind of at the beginning of that early wave of feminism that would go on in the 70s, and kind of the end of the nuclear family before that. Yeah, I think it kind of reflects the disintegration of that nuclear family at the time. And of course, George has kind of talked about that in the past, of having, the daughter, killing, eating the father and killing the mother type of thing. And it was kind of, it's the first time we started to see women kind of, especially in marriages, wives kind of starting to stand up and kind of not follow the lead of their husbands so much. And I think that it's kind of a tragic, sad aspect of the Harry Cooper character, is that, whether he's right or wrong, whether he's an asshole or whether he's, whatever you think about him, which he definitely is, which we kind of talked about with Felcher last week. A lot of people, kind of play a race card with him. Like maybe he's got some prejudice against Ben just because of the race of the character and whatnot. I don't know if I buy into that really, but but the tragic kind of sad thing about the Harry Cooper character is that nobody is on his side. Like, Ben is obviously not on his side. Barbara's not on his side. Barbara's not really on anybody's side. Barbara's just kind of there. Tom and Judy they kind of side with Ben eventually, and not even his own wife is on the side of him in this situation. Even she's kind of like, oh, we should go up. You're not going to help. Like, whoa, and she, of course, there's the line in the movie. It's like, we may not enjoy living together, but dying together isn't going to solve anything. I mean, it's the perfect portrait of a family that's in the midst of collapse. Like you can tell that this couple already had issues in their marriage before the shit hit the fan, and before the dead started coming back to life and everything went to shit. They were already at odds. They were already in a disagreement with each other. So Harry's like, nobody is on Harry's side, not even his wife, which is kind of would you could totally understand him being as bitter and angry as he is in this film. Um, so I just always found that interesting that here's this, and especially the juxtaposition that we get with them and then the Tom and Judy characters, which are the young love, we'll call it, um, the young love of the movie, which Tom and Judy are young and still vibrant and still and in love, falling in love, and it's like you put them up against the Harry and Helen Cooper characters, and it's a complete 180. It's the complete opposite. But Tom is Judy is still looking to Tom for his leadership. She's on his side. Whatever he says is the thing to do. Like, I trust you. Like, oh, you think this is the right thing to do, Tom? Okay, well, I'll go along with it. Whereas it's the complete opposite with Harry and Helen. Whatever Harry says, Helen's like, no. I think you're wrong. Being right. Oh yeah, it's important to be right, isn't it? It's like you can see these people arguing over the dinner table after work or something like that about the bills or whatever. Whereas as Tom and Judy, there's still that young love. They're just in the beginning of their relationship, so it's a complete juxtaposition there between those two couples, which both in their own way it leads to their demise. The sheer unwavering devotion that Judy has for Tom and always wanting to be by his side and always wanting to be with him is what kind of leads to their eventual demise, which, spoiler alert, guys, like we're going to be talking about these movies, and I'm giving away endings and shit, which I assume most of you guys have seen these movies, but just in case, spoiler alert. So yeah, I think it's interesting, that juxtaposition of the two couples in the house in Night of the Living Dead, and of course, Harry and Helen, their lack of being able to communicate with each other kind of leads to their ultimate demise. I don't know. I just always found that aspect interesting of it. Just the fact that Harry has nobody on his side. Like, nobody, nobody is agreeing with him in that house. Not even his own family is on his side in that film. Which is kind of sad. You kind of feel bad for him. Steven says, I basically agree with you. If the zombie apocalypse wasn't starting, they would probably be the first couple on their block to get a divorce. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Which is something wasn't really a topic that was touched on a lot in that time, especially in a cult genre film like Night of the Living Dead was. It wasn't something that everything was like, oh, husband and wife or boyfriend girlfriend, and there wasn't like that complicated relationship aspect to it that you would kind of see there between those characters. Yeah, their marriage was over before they wound up at the house, says Ed. Yeah, I agree. And you can definitely see that. You could, they weren't going to last, whether the dead were coming back to life or not. Rick says the actor did a great job playing the cynical Harry Cooper character. Yeah, I agree. I've always liked Carl Hardman's performance in that role, and Marilyn Eastman as well. Like, they both did a great job. Which I mentioned. They both, they were married. They were an actual couple in real life, so I'm sure that made it easy for them. But they, neither one of them are like real trained actors or anything really. But yeah, I've always liked both of the performances in that, for sure. Steven says Harry would probably have a bad wig and sports car. Yeah, he's probably on his way to that midlife crisis. Yeah, you're probably right. He'd get the toupee for sure. Helen would probably be attending swingers parties and closing down her local bars. Well, I feel like she would probably end up kind of like the next character that we're going to talk about. I feel like she would kind of end up in the same, the same circumstance that, let me get her pulled up here. And we'll go ahead and talk about. Oh, you gotta be kidding. All right, there we go. But yeah, just speaking of marriage and the portrayal of marriage, I mean, let's talk about Jack's wife, Jack and Joan Mitchell, which I think is one of the most interesting dynamics of a married couple in any of Romero's films. I just watched that again today, just to just kind of revisit and refresh my memory, because I have kind of a hot take about this that I wanted to be sure that I was on the same on the right track with before I came on here and started spewing it. Um, uh, okay, John says Carl and Marilyn were not married. They were together later on, but not married. It was a messy situation. Okay, okay. I always assumed they were married for some reason, but it makes sense. Um, but yeah, Jan White and Bill Thunhurst, of course, Jack and Joan Mitchell from Season of the Witch, Jack's wife, Hungry Wives, whatever you want to call it. It's an interesting portrayal of it's kind of that next step of what Harry and Helen Cooper would have been if shit hadn't gone so wrong. Um, it's uh it's interesting. Like I said, I kind of have a hot take about this. I want to get you guys' opinion on this, what you think. But I've always kind of watched Season of the Witch in the mindset that the Jan White character, Joan Mitchell, was kind of the protagonist and was kind of in the right for her wanting to, seek, extracurricular activities outside of the marriage. The lonely, bored housewife. You always kind of had like a sympathetic feel for her. But as time has gone on, I've kind of watched the film and kind of thought about it more. I kind of feel bad for Jack. I kind of feel bad for the Bill Thunhurst character. Um, because he really does nothing wrong in the film. Like, yeah, he's overly preoccupied with his job, with his business, for sure. He's definitely kind of emotionally unavailable for Joan in the film. There is the scene, of course, where he does get angry and does slap her, which is not good. Not great, not great. I'll say that. But later in the movie, he does, and it goes on. It's not like immediately the next scene. It's like a few scenes later, he does in the scene that in this picture, actually, he does end up like apologizing to her and saying, Joan, I shouldn't have hit you. You can tell he felt really bad about that. Um, you can tell it wasn't something that he was accustomed to doing a lot. It wasn't like he hit her all the time. It was just in the situation where his daughter runs away from home and his wife was there in the home listening to her, the daughter getting bald, as they call it in the movie, getting bald in the next room over. He was probably extremely disgusted, worried, panicked, and yeah, it just kind of went overboard, which he, like I said, eventually apologizes for later in the movie. But like all the negative thoughts and feelings that we have towards this character is really based on um because the story's being told from Jan White's perspective. It's being told from Joni's perspective. So the nightmare at the beginning of the movie where she's being leashed by her husband and hit in the face with the newspaper and treated like a dog and stuff is not actually him doing it. That's not, he doesn't do any of that in reality. Um, it's all in her mind. It's all in her dreams. So I always felt like I always had the feeling like, oh, she's kind of justified in wanting something else, wanting more out of the relationship, wanting more out of life. But really, like, the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, no, Joan Mitchell is not a protagonist. She's definitely the villain of this story. Like, yeah, like, like, she's definitely kind of losing her mind and kind of, and eventually at the end of the movie, like I said, spoiler alert, everybody, um, she does end up killing him at the end of the movie. And we don't really know if she knew it was him or not, but she does end up killing him and doesn't seem too sympathetic about it by the end of the film. So, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy here? I mean, yeah, I mean, marriages get to that point, especially when your kids grow up and move out and they don't really need their mom anymore. And of course, her whole thing in life was she was the stay-at-home mom. She was the keeper of the house, and her husband's not around as much anymore because he's focused on work. He's not as emotionally available for her as she would like. She's kind of just going through, her midlife crisis where she's wondering, where's my place in life? Where's my place in the world? And so she kind of discovers this witchcraft thing, and she uses it as an excuse to um, uh, give a reason for why she starts sleeping around with Greg, the Ray Lane character, a way to justify it. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting movie. It's not one that, like, some people are gonna like it, some people aren't. But I think the relationship aspect here is one that I've kind of turned on here over time, or I'm kind of like, okay, well, he didn't really do anything wrong. Yeah, he's you should probably be a little bit more emotionally there. Which by the end of the film, when he's being dropped off and he gets home early from his business trip, you can kind of see it in his head when he's like, oh, why don't you take the day off tomorrow and spend some time with your wife? And he's just like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. I should probably do that. This whole thing, with my daughter going missing's really been a drag, and you can kind of see him kind of thinking like, yeah, maybe I need to spend a little more time at home and kind of take care of things there. But by that time it's too late. She's already waiting at the top of the staircase with a shotgun, ready to blow his head off. Um, so yeah, I don't know. People always think of Season of the Witch as a feminist movie, a pro feminist movie, but I just don't see it. I don't think it is. And after talking to Felsher last week and him saying George's thoughts and opinions on that movie kind of changed after he watched it again, I think George kind of realized that George kind of maybe looking back in hindsight, maybe thought it was a pro feminist film at the time, but looking at it now, it's not really. And there's actually like little things like when she's going to buy the stuff to conjure, do her conjurings or whatever, she pays for it with the MasterCard. Kind of it's kind of like, oh, you're afforded these luxuries because of your station. You're able to just charge it, because of your husband's gone working all the time making the money, so you have the ability to do that, and you have all this extra time to spend doing this shit. I don't know. I see it less and less as a pro feminist film in my opinion. But and even at the beginning in the dream, she's being leashed by her husband and treated and walked around like a dog and put in the kennel and stuff, and in her mind that's negative. But by the end of the film, she's literally being leashed by the coven of witches, and is being walked around like a dog and treated like a dog, and she's okay with it. And it's just like, so she gets out of one situation to put herself right back in a different situation, but I guess it's by her own volition. I don't know, but it's an interesting film, man. I think about that movie a lot. But yeah, in my opinion, I don't see, yeah, I don't see him as the villain of the piece, or deserved of his ultimate fate by the end of it at all. It's a complicated relationship, and I think it's done really, really well. I've often said that George was very, it's a very mature film for a guy like George who was in his early 30s at the time to make. So, um, bu- 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 got some more thoughts on Harry and Helen. It says it was 68 people didn't divorce like people do now. It was a heavy cloud over someone's head at the time. That's right. Yeah. You just had to do like in Jack's Wife and just kill the motherfucker and you can get away with it. It's like you can hear like when the cops discover the body, and you can hear it's George's voice and stuff, and they're like, she'll get away with it. Damn women, they get everything in the end. It's kind of a funny little line there that George does the voiceover for at the end of Jack's Wife. Um, yeah, Steven, I think Helen Cooper would have done that, because eventually, Karen would have grown up and moved out and all that, and she would be stuck with this guy that she doesn't like anymore, and she's gonna want to mess around. Maybe she wouldn't become like a witch or whatever, but she would definitely probably be looking for the extracurricular act. She'd be looking for her own Greg, that's for sure. Um, it says, I agree with you. She was right, but Jack wasn't wrong either. I felt bad for him too. There you go. See, I thought it might be a little bit of a hot take because it's always kind of been portrayed as, like I said, the pro feminist, like she should be free to pursue whatever. But at the same time, it's like she's also very delusional and just, she's not a very likable character. I think that's a thing too. I just kind of realized over time, she does a lot of very, bad shit throughout the film. And most of which I guess killing her husband is one, but um, Um, Larry says Joan was getting old and having a midlife crisis. Yeah, yeah. Which there's a lot of similarities with this film to the Cassavetes film Opening Night. If you guys have ever seen Opening Night with Gina Rowlands, she's kind of an actress dealing with the fact that she's an aging actress and she's dealing with her age and stuff. And there's some supernatural elements to that as well. Um, so I was watching that, and I just kind of thought like, oh, this is kind of, it's kind of reminiscent of Jan White and Jack's wife. John says they're both kind of flawed characters, but Joan was worried that her life was slipping away and used witchcraft as an excuse to have a fling. Pretty much, yeah, yeah. And yeah, I mean, you can really see it. You can really see her disdain for all of her, like in the scene where she's sitting there with all of her friends and they're playing the card game and stuff, and all of her friends are like older women, and she's just like, I don't fit in here anymore. I don't want to be around these fucking bitches anymore. Talking about my husband and all my life. She wants to she wants to party. She wants to do some shit. Rick says, I've not seen the film Season of the Witch, which I think was released in the 70s. Yeah, 71. It's an interesting movie. It's an interesting film for sure. Like I said, it's not for everybody. It's not really a horror film, really. There's some horror elements to it for sure. But definitely, I'd recommend checking it out if it's something, sounds like something you might be interested in. Tom could have been Helen's Ray Lane. Yeah. I'm sure she was thinking that down in the basement too while Harry was up there. She was like, "Hey, you want to ditch the young bride?" Which Marilyn wasn't that old at the time either, so she was older than Judy, but whatever. Rick's saying, for some reason, the plot of Season of the Witch kind of reminds me of a similar attributes of that Joan Crawford movie, Mildred Pierce, in the 1940s. Never seen it. Never seen that. Could be. I might check that out. Steven says, we all know what would have really happened. She'd be drinking a bottle of vodka and giving a mailman a Hummer. Yeah, but that doesn't make for an interesting film, really, unless it's porno or something, maybe. But oh, Rick, you were like 7 and 71. Well, all right, well, there you go. Yeah, check it out. Check it out. You might dig it. But I think the in terms of married couples that are fun to talk about from Romero's films, I think the one that most people talk about and kind of have the most fun with is Henry and Wilma Northrop from Creepshow. And this one I might have a little bit of a hot take on too, honestly, because when I started thinking, I thought about doing this show for quite some time, just kind of digging into the different relationships and stuff from Romero's films, and I was thinking about this one, and of course, in the same vein, you're thinking like, man, like poor Hal Holbrook, Henry is this beaten down man with this overbearing wife, and he's just constantly embarrassing him and all this. But really, when you think of it in terms of like a real life relationship, like I've definitely known couples that were like Henry and Wilma. Just call her Billy. We'll just call her Billy. I've definitely known real life couples that were like Henry and Billy. The husband's just kind of beaten down, just kind of, I'll let her he pretty much just steps aside and lets her handle everything. If they're at a restaurant, she's going to have the Karen moment, and that's just what it's going to be. And, I'm not going to speak up. Oh, my food's not prepared properly, but I'll stay quiet. But she's got to be, she's got to stand up and take charge, type of thing. Those couples definitely exist. And so when you see like, poor Henry and Billy in this, like who's the villain and who's, is there a villain in this relationship really? Because yeah, Billy's a little overbearing and a little much to handle and is embarrassing at times for poor Henry. But in the end, Henry does end up killing her, or getting rid of her, So is it like, all right, so is he the bad guy in this relationship? I don't know. But you got to think, like, were they always this type of couple? Like, was Henry just beaten down over the years of being around Billy? And, how did they come to this moment? How did they come to this? And of course, there's always which I don't know if this was intended at all, but it's one of those theories that I've heard over the years about the Fritz Weaver and Hal Holbrook character relationships in the film. Is like, is there an undertone of like a gay interest there between the two or something? Like, I don't know if there's anything true to that, but it's something that you can throw into the idea that maybe Henry was not so much into Wilma as he was, Fritz Weaver. But yeah, it's an interesting, fun couple to talk about because one of the most memorable scenes and characters in any of Romero's films is Billy. Like, and Adrienne Barbeau is nothing like the character in this. It's such a change of pace for somebody like Adrian to play somebody like Billy. It's so over the top, but at the same time, it's like I know couples like this. And honestly, it's usually like the a skinny dude and a fat woman. That's usually how it goes. Like the bigger woman like takes charge type of thing. Um, but it's like I said, Henry's kind of just a weak man, and Billy's probably at a point where she knows that she can walk all over him and get away with it, and she does. And it's like, can some women, so most women, when they look for a partner, are looking for a strong man. I don't mean like, oh, a fucking Schwarzenegger strong man, I'm gonna go chop wood and fucking build fires and shit. I mean, just like a responsible adult partner that they can rely on and they can trust and they can, relate with, hence the term relationship. But there's so many couples out there that one literally just kind of bows to the other one, and the person that's being genuflected to typically takes advantage of that. Um, so it's like, who can you really blame in this situation? It's like, if how I'm sure if at some point, instead of feeding her to Fluffy, if he would have just stood up to her and said, "Bitch, shut the fuck up! Like, you're an embarrassment. You're getting on my nerves. You need to fucking chill." She probably would have said, "Oh, all right, I can kind of dig that. All right, you got it. Take charge. Be a man in the sack. When's the last time you got it up for her, Henry?" you know, her whole spiel at the end of the movie. That's a lot of frustration a woman's been holding in for a long fucking period of time, and she's just letting go because she's just like done with it. She's just like, "What the fuck is your problem?" You know, sometimes you gotta take charge. Um, and Henry didn't do that until it was just like to the most extreme way possible. Just like, okay, well, I got to get rid of this bitch somehow. So I'm feeding her to the crate. Um, but yeah, it's an interesting couple dynamic there. That's very true to life. Unfortunately, that there are a lot of couples like Henry and Wilma. Um, yeah, Henry is Walter Mitty with a violent streak. Pretty much, yeah. Murder by proxy. Ed says, I mean, some men pay to have women treat them like Billy. That's true. That's true. Yeah, yeah. Billy would have made a killing on the dominatrix scene. That's for sure. Steven says, probably the smartest man in the world. Not only did he save himself the jail time, he kept all his money and contributed to saving a wildlife species that, if not extinct, was probably endangered. That is a brilliant assessment. A brilliant assessment, Steven. I agree with that. Not to mention, he got rid of her before she hit the wall. Well played on every front. That's the kind of shit I expect from you, Steven, on a weekly basis. That's for sure. Since says in real life, I heard she's more like Stevie Wayne. Oh yeah, I've met Adrienne in the band. She's just the sweetest person in the world. Like, just super super nice. Yeah, she's nothing like Wilma at all. Um, Ed says, but seriously, what came first, her alcoholism or her bitchy attitude? Which one causes the other? That's a good question. That is a good question. That's actually a really good point. I'm sure she probably drank to deal with, I don't know, I don't know what, people drink for all types of reasons, but I guess you could probably say she started her excessive drinking just to deal with the situation she was in with Henry. I don't know, but, yeah, piggy friends and shit for brains. There you go. But yeah, we all love Billy, even though she's a huge bitch. But we all love Adrian for sure. Um, but I think another interesting couple. This is I watched this movie last night in honor of Valentine's Day. But this is probably George's, which is not. It's not a George story, so it may be more of a look at the young love and relationships through the eyes of Rudy Ritchie, I'm sorry. But Chris and Lynn from There's Always Vanilla, I think is probably the one that hits most home to me, because it's very realistic in its portrayal of a young couple, young love meeting. And is it love? Is it lust? I think we all kind of realize by the end of the movie that it's really just lust, but they kind of get into a situation. The physical attraction between the two kind of leads them to where they kind of stick together, but they're totally wrong for each other in so many real life ways, which is so. It's a situation that I've been in for sure, where you meet somebody, you start dating, and you're like, oh, she's so hot and she's so cool, and boy, what could go wrong? And then you move in together, and then it's just like, oh, I can't stand this woman. Like, Jesus Christ, like we're not compatible at all on any level. And that's kind of the story of There's Always Vanilla, with Chris and Lynn here. So Chris is like a young, wild musician, bohemian lifestyle, flying by the seat of his pants. Um, and he meets Lynn, who is more conservative, more reserved, um, more traditional, I guess, in a lot of ways. And of course, they meet. The physical attractions there. Ray Lane's a charming son of a bitch, and Judy Ridley, my God, at that time, she was, what a looker. Um, lucky man was Russ Striner. I'll say that. Um, but yeah, so they meet, and the relationship kind of blossoms because of their physical attraction for one another. They kind of have fun. They kind of, but as the movie goes on, they eventually kind of move in together, and the whole the dynamic between the two changes, because when you start to rely on someone, um, in a relationship, and uh, in that arena, you need a lot. You need more than the physical attraction. Like that's a good opening line there. That's a good way. That's a good way to get through the door. But once you move in with somebody, and you got to you shit in the same bathroom, and you start to really see, you really get to know that person. That's when the test happens. And for this couple in this film, these two characters, like they were not compatible with each other. Ray was still young, and knew everything, and I identify a lot with that character, especially in my 20s. Like, I was that guy. And that's why I was a difficult, and still I am on so many levels, a difficult person to be in a relationship with. That was hard for me to say, but I'm coming out with it. um, I'm still hard headed. I still think I got all the, oh yeah, oh fuck, we don't need to do that, blah. And Lynn, there's like a scene where Lynn's like trying to get him to fill out this job application. He's just kind of blowing it off, and he's just like, I'm writing the great American novel here. Like, what are you talking about? And that was me in my 20s for sure. It's like, oh, people try to look out for your best interest, and like, oh, why don't you should you should try something, get a job, focus on a career or something. I'm just like, I don't need to do that, man. I'm in a band, or I'm working on a movie here, something. I was always that kid, that headstrong kid, that it was hard to. And when you're in a relationship with someone, you can't blame somebody for being like, I can't trust this guy. I can't trust them to take care of me or a family or do anything like that. Which, luckily I've grown up a little bit over the years. I've grown up a little bit. I'm a little more responsible and a little more reliable, hopefully. Um, but when you're that young and all that, it's like, yeah, it's just not going to work. And then you introduce Lynn gets pregnant in the film, and she knows there's a baby on the way. There's a kid on the way, and that is a whole other bridge to cross. Like I always say, like when you're in a relationship with someone, it's really, really fucking easy to stay in a relationship with someone. If you don't live together, you don't have kids, you don't get married, you're just boyfriend and girlfriend, you still have your own apartments, your own house, and you just see each other when you see each other. It's really easy to stay in a relationship like that. But man, when you start introducing kids, like there's levels, there's different tests that you got to pass in a relationship. It's like, okay, we're together and we go out on dates and it's nice and I'm attracted to you and you're attracted to me and all that and it's cool. Let's move in together. All right, we're moving in together. Okay, I see. All right, we shit in the same bathroom now. We share a shower. I got to deal with all your stray hairs and stuff in the bathroom, and you got to deal with all my bullshit. And it's like, okay, well, we can deal with that if you can get to that point. And it's like, okay, we can deal with that. And then you can get married, and then it's like, okay, let's have a kid. And then the kid introduces a whole other monkey wrench into that. So there's like things there's certain tests you got to pass in a relationship. And yeah, this couple in this film it was never going to happen for these two. And I think it's a really honest and interesting look at that. And it's definitely not your typical Romero film that you would think of a George Romero film for sure. But it definitely tackles these issues and tackles this topic in a really honest and touching way, honestly. And it kind of, the Ray Lane character, Chris, is kind of half in, half out. Like he thinks he has another kid with somebody else, but he's not sure. So he's kind of faced at this crossroads of his life where, yeah, I need to grow up. It's time to grow up type of thing. And yeah, I mean, it's and so you're on his journey, but at the same time, you kind of feel bad for Lynn, who's kind of stuck with this baby now. Does she get an abortion? What does she do? Because she knows that she can't rely on him. I don't know. I've always loved this movie. Some people hate it. Some people just won't even give it a chance. And for a lot of people, it's probably not going to be their thing. But it's always been one of my favorites just because it's spoken so much to me on a personal level. And it's a beautiful love letter to the city of Pittsburgh too. I always say that too. Like for Pittsburgh in that era and that time period, like it's a really beautiful film and experimental too in a lot of ways, which I kind of appreciate. And I know Matt commented he's a big fan of this movie as well. My favorite Romero love story, arc or no arc, directionless or not, the film is a relatable slice of life. Yeah, 100% agree. 100% agree with that. And I think it has more of a direction than it's given credit for a lot of the times. Yeah, they didn't have the money to really flesh it out as much as they could have. Yeah, it's based off of a prior project that they did for Ray Lane, so it's a little choppy here and there. But I think when you watch the movie, like I said, I watched it last night. It plays well. Like it plays fine. Um, maybe my only gripe maybe is that the relationship kind of plays out a little too fast where it's like, oh, they just met, now all of a sudden they live together. So maybe they could do like a 6 months later type of thing. I don't know, um but yeah, other than that, it's always played well for me, and it's always kind of hit home for sure. um Rick says this is a reference to the Mildred Pierce movie with Joan Crawford, 1941 novel by a John Kane and made into a 1945 movie with Joan Crawford. Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of it, never seen it. So check that out. I'll keep it in mind. I've been watching a lot of shit, a lot of older movies lately for sure. So that's one I'll keep in mind if I ever come across it. Steve says, thanks, Alpha. I try my best to continually contribute at a high level. Plus, how do we know her intentions? Did she marry Hal Holbrook for his love or his station in life? That wasn't that's true too. Because he was he may have had a little money. It's a good point. We didn't really fleshed out. Didn't know. It's a good point. It says they're like a band. You don't really know each other until you make it rich. That's when you learn who each other is. That's true. Yeah, that's true. Or when you go on tour with them for the first time, like it's easy to be in a band when you're just playing every now and then on the weekends and you practice once or twice a week. But when you're on tour with somebody and you gotta share a van with them for days at a time, yeah, that's when you can really see like, oh, I don't know, I don't fucking be around this guy anymore. Since this for sure, and we all don't have a crate monster to sort things out when they go south. Yeah, if only, Synth, if only. Vacation is the first great relationship test. Yeah, that's a good one too. Because it's the first time you're kind of forced to be around someone 24/7 nonstop. So yeah, that's definitely a good test as well. It says if you don't tell someone it was basically an unfinished film, they will never notice it. Yeah, I kind of feel that way too. I've shown it to some people before in the past, and they've always kind of dug it. They've always kind of seen it and kind of gotten what they were going for with that movie. So yeah, I kind of agree with that. Um, but yeah, I love that. It's a story of young love, and it's a true, honest tale of young love. You know, it never worked. It doesn't work out. You know, and a lot of the times it doesn't. Um, but if it does, if you can make it past the moving in aspect of it, of course we always hit. You know, what's the old nursery rhyme or whatever? It's like da 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 da, sitting in a carriage, baby carriage. I don't know, I fuck. What is the goddamn thing now? It's like sitting in a tree. Kissing. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes baby in a baby carriage or whatever the hell. And of course, when you're talking about parenthood, what better parents can we talk about than Stephen and Fran in Dawn of the Dead? Um, this was another relationship that was never going to work out. And this is one that I've thought about plenty of times. Thought about a lot. Um, and I've always gotten the vibe just from various little things throughout the film. Of course, there's the scene in the restaurant where Steven proposes to Fran and Fran turns him down and says, "Oh, it wouldn't be real." Um, I never get the vibe watching that film that Fran, just from a strict, like I think Galen and David got along fine, but from a strict kayfabe standpoint, as they say in wrestling, um, I never got the vibe that Fran was all that into Flyboy. Never did. I always felt like Flyboy was desperately seeking her approval, desperately seeking her love and affection, and she was just kind of detached from it. And yeah, she was pregnant with this kid, and that was kind of, to me, that was probably the only thing keeping her around before they kind of took off in the chopper. Um, in my theory is that Fran was probably more career minded, was definitely more focused on her job at the TV station, which you can kind of tell in the film when she's trying to keep some semblance of order and trying to keep things together, and then Flyboy comes in and says, "No, we're getting out of here." And she's a little, defensive about that at first, but decides to go with him. Um, but I've always felt like, to me, like Steven and Fran feels like that relationship where, oh, we had a fling one night and I happened to get pregnant type of thing. And so now we're kind of stuck with each other. And I feel like Fran probably didn't have very strong feelings towards Steven, whereas Steven was probably, oh, it's the mother of my child. Like she's carrying my child. Um, I want to be with her. Like we need to be together. And of course, the scene where she turns down the marriage proposal is a perfect example of that. But I never felt like Fran was ever gave Steven that type of like warmth and compassion that Steven would try to give her. And she was always a little distant. Um, so yeah, I think that's another type of relationship that I've certainly been in before, where you're really into somebody, and they kind of give you the time of day when they can or when they feel like it, but you're desperately trying to win them over. You're trying to be like, oh no, like we need to be together, type of thing. But the other person's just kind of like, maybe one of these days I'll see you. I'll see you. And then they call you, I've been in that relationship before. And, I'll say that, like, I've been in that position before. I think most people have, where you desperately want a relationship with somebody for one reason or another. And it's just not happening. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think it's an interesting thing about this because George could have easily portrayed them as like, oh, they were the loving couple and they're expecting a baby, which is what he does with David and Judy in the Crazies. They're kind of in the same situation, boyfriend, girlfriend, fiancés, engaged to be married. She's pregnant, but it's a totally different type of relationship dynamic there between those two. Whereas David and Judy and the Crazies, David is definitely more of the protector of Judy, and Judy is definitely the loving caregiver they're probably the most loving couple of any Romero movie, honestly. Um, and that's all kind of taken away from David by the end of the Crazies, when they kill her, when they kill Judy, and you can see it kills him, not physically, but definitely emotionally, spiritually. Like, he gives up and he doesn't care. He, in his mind, he's like, okay, the rest of the world can go to shit and I don't care. Like, and I think that's an interesting ending to the Crazies, because we kind of get that the thing of like, oh, maybe he's immune, maybe he's got the immunity, and but by that point he doesn't care, because they've taken everything away from him, so he's got nothing left to fight for and nothing left to care for. Whereas in Dawn of the Dead, you got Fran and Steven, who are, the same situation. The world's going to shit, but there's still not that connecting thing between the two, the connecting affection between the two. Um, and even when Flyboy gets shot at the end, when Peter kills Flyboy, it's kind of funny because Fran's just kind of like, oh no, and then she like quickly just moves on with her life. She's just like, oh, she kind of has that look on her face, but when it's time to get to the chopper and get the hell out, she's doesn't waste a moment, doesn't give it a second thought. Um, so I don't know. I've always thought that was an interesting theory and dynamic there between those two. Um, but yeah, I think and when Peter brings up, do you want to abort it type of thing, it's like Steven kind of has that look of like, no, no, I don't. But Fran kind of has that look of like, maybe she's thought of that before. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading a little too much into that scene as well. But hey, that's what we do here. Um, Rick says, I agree. The little things like leaving the toilet seat down, keeping things organized in the home, just being loving, considerate of your partner's comfort, and respecting their space is a big plus. Yeah, yeah. That's a tough one. That's a tough one when you move in with somebody, because sharing a space is difficult, whether it's a roommate or whatever. Like, sharing a space with someone is a true test of friendship, relationship, whatever. Um, since says, and Fran doesn't even care much about the baby as she continues to smoke. I mean, she drinks too. I don't know if you noticed that, but she has the glass of wine when she's on the bed, which I'm assuming it's wine. It could just be water. She's just drinking it out of a wine glass, but I'm just going to assume it's wine. Um, a well-known issue in the 70s, unlike the 50s, healthy smoking as yeah. But again, it's like the end of the world. It's like, what can you do? If what's going to be worse for the baby? A little cigarette smoke, or being torn apart by a pack of zombies? What's worse for the baby? Ed says, well, I see them having had drunk sex and woke up pregnant, so I agree with you. Yeah, that's kind of my thought. It's like, Fran, working at the station, focusing on her career, because she was married beforehand. She was divorced from, which in the book it's Charlie, and it's the guy that's like, these are all the operating rescue stations as of now, which is kind of funny to think about. But she, got an ex-husband, she says in the chopper. So she is the product of divorce. She's a divorcee, um, and so she probably wasn't looking for anything serious. And then here comes this, strapping, good-looking Steven, the new helicopter pilot, the new traffic guy. Whoa. And then one night, things went a little far, and then she ended up being knocked up. And then it's like, oh well, okay. And then that's the way that it played out in my head too. So yeah, I'm with you on that, Ed. Steven says the book added some other dimensions to them, and if there wasn't a zombie apocalypse, you might have been correct. But if he hadn't become a late night snack, they might have survived. Yeah, that's true. They would have had no connecting tissue. But who knows? She wouldn't have been able to fly out with them. She'd have been stuck at that TV station for who knows how long, or whatever would have happened there. Steven says it wouldn't have always been pretty, but I think they could have grown together due to the zombie apocalypse. And if she ever really needed a different disco stick to ride, Peter wasn't very far away. Yeah, yeah, that's always been a theory that people throw out there, that she was more interested in Peter than Flyboy. And since people often stay together just to avoid loneliness, could be Steve and Fran's issue. Yeah, I can see that. And that's definitely true too. I think that's another bad thing that people stick in relationships for, is just to avoid loneliness. Which I used to be that way, man. When I was younger, if I didn't have a girlfriend or somebody to constantly be telling me that they fucking love me or whatever, like I'd just, oh man, I ain't worth shit, you know. And then eventually, you kind of, some people do. I don't know if everybody does, but I eventually got over that, and I was in my 20s, and I was just like totally fine being alone. Like I'm totally cool. Like I still kind of just like my alone time most of the time. Um, Steven says, "How would Peter have performed an abortion?" Hey, Frank, can you come by the stairwell for a minute? Hey, can you hand me that hanger over there? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that would have played out. I don't know if they filmed that or not, but that would have been an interesting one for sure. Um, since says, and why the hell does Peter know how to abort it? He's seen some shit. Yeah, I always kind of got that vibe from Peter, just his demeanor and the way that he's kind of cool, calm, collected in the face of adversity and horrible tragedy and shit going on all around him. Like he always kind of stayed pretty cool. So that's usually the sign of somebody who's seen some shit for sure. So yeah, I always kind of assumed that about Peter. I don't know how he got the knowledge on abortions, but you know, use your imagination. Fran was stressed out from Gibbons, driven to drink. Yeah, probably. I'd have probably drank too if I had to answer to that guy. It says, would the original ending have changed your thoughts on them? Maybe she kills herself because David was gone. Eh, I think in the original ending where she kills herself, I think it's just because it's a hopeless situation in general for her to be in, and maybe she's like, why would you want to, why would you want to bring a child into the world? Maybe, and maybe she doesn't want to venture out into the world by herself because she thinks Peter, in the original ending, Peter does shoot himself. So, um, I've never considered that would be why, if she was like, oh, I can't go on without Flyboy. Oh, my love and my love. I never got that vibe. I've never gotten that vibe from that character. But it could be. I don't know. Just depends on how you look at it, I guess. Rick says, I hear you, Alpha, but it's good to have that braid on your shoulder to share both your happy and sad times. That's for sure. That's definitely for sure. Um, but yeah, I agree. It's good to have. It's always good to have somebody, as long as they're worth having around. I'll say that, as long as they're worth having around. You don't want to get stuck with somebody that you're miserable around all the time. Definitely not. Where's the rest of my shit here? All right, there we go. Yeah. So parenthood, we got young love, we got marriage. What about that forbidden love? Everybody's had that forbidden love before, right? Everybody's had that forbidden love. And the one that immediately comes to mind for me when it comes to forbidden love, it's got to be Martin and Mrs. Santini. Again, it gets kind of playing off the Joan and Jack Mitchell thing, the bored housewife. Yeah, that's why I've always kind of thought of Season of the Witch and Martin as kind of distant cousins of each other, because there's a lot of the same themes in both films. But of course, Mrs. Santini's character is the bored housewife who stumbles across this quiet, young kid she can kind of take advantage of and kind of get her kicks with. And it's kind of a sad situation to me. It always has been, the relationship between Martin and Mrs. Santini. Because Santini's just looking for a fling. She's kind of like Joan. She's just kind of looking for some young man meat to play with. Um, Whereas Martin, I feel like in Martin, he sees Mrs. Santini as kind of the only person in his life that kind of cares for him, that kind of shows him affection. And I feel like he kind of starts to fall for her in some way. He's really like, standoffish at first. She's making her advances throughout the film, and he's kind of like, oh no, run out. He's a little standoffish about it. But as he kind of gives in to it and kind of embraces it, it kind of changes him. He doesn't. If you notice, like as soon as he starts, banging Mrs. Santini, he stops killing as much. He doesn't have that urge to go out and find victims like he did before that, because he's starting. He kind of says it on the phone on the radio show. It's like, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm doing the sexy stuff with somebody who's awake now without the blood. Like maybe that's why. But I can't. Nobody looks pretty enough. Like you can kind of hear it, and he's kind of saying, without saying it, that I've kind of found somebody that I'm really kind of into. And it's kind of tragic because that she's not on that page at all. Like she's not looking for love, she's not looking for a relationship, she's married. She's just looking as Martin as kind of her fling, her extracurricular activity, as we were saying earlier with Joan. And it makes the scene where he discovers her body in the bathtub even sadder, because it's like, oh no, like that's the one person that ever treated me nice. Everybody in that movie treats Martin like shit, maybe outside of Christina, but even she's just kind of more well, so what's the word I'm looking for? Not sympathetic to Martin, but just kind of like I don't know, she kind of just feels bad for him more than anything. um Trying to think. There's a word for that. I can't think of what it is. It's getting late. Um, but yeah, she just kind of feels bad for him. Everybody else treats him like shit. Like just random strangers that he runs into throughout the film just kind of treat him like shit. Kuda, of course, treats him like Nosferatu. Like nobody is nice to this kid in his life except this one woman. But it's just because she's just looking for a little sex on the side while her husband's away, and he kind of falls for that. And when he discovers her body, it's like his reaction to it is not like, oh no, like he doesn't even look sad, doesn't look affected by it at all. To him, it's just, oh, it's another person that has let me down. It's another person that has left me, and he's just kind of, okay, well, that was nice. And it's just it makes that character even more sad, in my opinion, because it doesn't affect him. It's just like, oh yeah, I kind of expected this. This is what always happens. Um, and who knows? Like maybe if she'd have stuck around, maybe it would have cured Martin of his disease. Maybe it would. I mean, her killing herself kind of directly led to Martin dying. Like Kuda assumes that Santini was killed by Martin. He knew that they kind of had a little bit of a relationship going on there, and that's what ended up killing Martin. So it's an interesting relationship dynamic between those two. I've always kind of liked the idea of this poor kid who's kind of falling for this older woman, but she's just not, that's not what she's looking for. It's not what she's into, and it ended up being his ultimate demise. Whereas if he would have just killed her after meeting her the first time, or there would have been no connecting tissue there between the two. It would have just been another one of his victims that couldn't be traced back to him. So I don't know. It's interesting, but I always love that. And it's sad. It's just sad. It's a sad relationship. And then the other forbidden love category relationship that I want to touch on here, and then we'll call it on this one. But it's one that doesn't get talked about a lot, but I think it's kind of interesting. And you guys know I'm a huge Bruiser fan, but the relationship between Henry Creedlow and Rosemary in Bruiser is another interesting one. It's because it falls into that category of forbidden love, but it's a different kind of forbidden love. It's two married people that are married to awful people that do not fit them whatsoever, but the chemistry is between these two, and the external factors that are keeping them apart are, she's married to this fucking crazed Milo Styles, Peter Stormare, the great performance from Peter Stormare. Don't care. Um, she's married to him. She's stuck in this marriage with him. He's stuck in a marriage with his wife, Janine. They're having a affair behind both of their backs. But the real love and attraction and chemistry is between these two. But what's keeping them apart is this all the external factors of just regular day-to-day life of social standing, and she can't leave Milo because they work together, they're part owners of the magazine, they have all this money, and it's that's a type of relationship you see a lot all the time too, is like people that are stuck in these situations because they're so much invested in their current situation that they can't get out of. So I always thought this was an interesting relationship that Romero portrayed, and especially when you think about this time period in Romero's life, it's like you can see the frustration of, obviously, in the Henry Creedlow character, that George is getting out in some ways. You wonder, was there a situation like this that George ever experienced during his time? Like I said, George was a guy that was, married 4 different times. Like, he was, probably, maybe not the best husband at times, and then that's total human, a total human thing for somebody to be. It's like nobody's going to be the best husband, best boyfriend, the best wife all the time. Um, but yeah, I always liked the chemistry in this in Bruiser between Rosemary and Henry. Um, yeah, the copter sputtering from low fuel, and the Fran death ending added to the sad hopelessness. Yeah, I always loved that. I always kind of like that ending because it kind of shows you that even if they didn't kill themselves and they did fly off, they had no gas anyway, so they probably would have just crashed about a mile down the road anyway. So it was hopeless either way. There was no happy ending there. Um, yeah. Martin was like Mrs. Santini's. I used to have a cat. You remind me of. That's what she was looking for. She was just looking for a fucking cat. Um, since true to his job, he is delivering the meat of a different kind. Yeah. Steven says there's probably also a little of The Graduate in there as well. Martin came out not too long after The Graduate, not even 10 years later. Yeah, that's true. Definitely a little bit. And I think that's kind of played on in Season of the Witch, where Greg kind of calls Joni Mrs. Robinson. Just it's kind of a nod to The Graduate. So yeah, there's definitely some Graduate inspiration there as well. It says it's like Romeo and Juliet, but turned inside out and upside down. Yeah. It's a good way to put it. Since I dated an older woman once, Martin was on the right track. How old? How old? I want to hear that story, Sam. It says I always saw that he was more into her than she was into him. Yeah, and Martin, yeah, definitely. Or are you talking about Bruiser? Because that's interesting too. Because Rosemary's definitely you kind of get the vibe that Rosemary kind of pities, which is the word I think I was looking for earlier when talking about Christina and Martin. Christina kind of pities Martin, but I always you do kind of get the vibe sometimes that Rosemary just kind of pities Henry, and they're just like, oh yeah, we're friends and all that, but and Henry wants more, but she's a little, yeah, I kind of see that in either one of those situations, honestly. Another take on Walter Mitty. Yeah, I can see that. Steven says, I hate to say this because I'm a huge Romero fan, but was this a fantasy or Romero thinking ahead if he couldn't go the distance with his current spouse? History shows what ultimately happened. Yeah, I mean, yeah, trust me, I thought about that as well. I know because, of course, George was married to Christine at this time, and their marriage wouldn't last too much longer after Bruiser came out, and you can see it in Bruiser. You can see a lot of George's frustrations with his career, with his marriage. Possibly, yeah. I mean, this is possibly George, being honest and thinking I want out of maybe wanting out of that marriage. I don't know. I can't speak on that. I don't know. I know George loved Christine quite a bit. You could see that in that letter from 2001, which I don't think I read it on here, but it's in the archive. There's if you guys missed it, I talked about it when I did the Living Dead Weekend review show. We found that in the archive, and it was a letter from George to Christine in 2001 on New Year's. And it was just like this really heartfelt, really sad letter that he had written to her, like just telling her, like, like, oh, I know I'm not the easiest to be around sometimes, and we have our problems, but I love you. And it was really kind of a heartbreaking letter to read, especially knowing that where their marriage wouldn't last much longer after that. So yeah, maybe it could be partial of George's fantasy. I don't know, but um, it's a good point though. And, talking about Bruiser, okay, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a good point too. I mean, you can definitely see that. You can definitely see that in the Rosemary character. Like I said, there's a little bit of pity there that you can definitely see that she kind of feels when talking and interacting with Henry for sure. Um, but yeah, so love bites. However you want to look at it, whether it's young love, marriage, parenthood, it's tough, man. It's tough, but it's also a beautiful, beautiful thing. If you got it, cherish it and enjoy it and treat each other. Relationships are tough, man. It's a tough business, but yeah, it can be messy sometimes. But however you slice it, it sure can bite sometimes. Um, but yeah, I just thought that'd be a fun little deep dive to do. I haven't done one of those in quite some time, where you just kind of nerd out and just revisit the movies and give your own thoughts and theories. And I thought it was apropos for Valentine's Day, since Valentine's Day was yesterday, and I was like, I got to think of something Valentine's Day themed. What could it be? What could it be? Um, it says we always assume George left Christine. Who knows? Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. The version of the story that I've always heard is that George went to Toronto to film Land of the Dead, and that's where he met Suze, the who he would end up marrying later on. But ended up meeting Suze in Toronto while filming Land of the Dead, and that was kind of the end of his relationship with Christine at that point. Which you know, Christine's talked about in the past. Like I talked to her about it. She still loved George to the day that he died. She still had a lot of love for him, and was still very affected and kind of heartbroken about how it all went down. And she definitely it still affects her probably to this day. Because I mean they were together. I mean they were together through it all, from Martin all the way through Land of the Dead. Like she was there with him. um Good times, bad times, like she was there. So yeah, I mean I've always gotten that vibe that especially when I talked to her and I was we were talking about George and him passing away and all that. And she you could tell that she was still affected by it. She still hadn't quite gotten over it. So um and I hated it when it happened, when I heard, because to me, like, growing up, like when I was younger, like George and Christine were an item. Like that was just a thing. Like they were like secondary parents to me or something. Like I always cared for them, and I was like, oh, it's so good to know that they're still together after all these years. And you would always hear Christine on all the commentaries, like the Dawn of the Dead commentary and the Night Riders commentaries. And she was always there, and all the documentaries and interviews and stuff. Like it was always her and George. And then when I remember hearing, I guess it was online somewhere, I saw that they had or it may have been I had saw George and Suze together, and I was like, "What? What the fuck happened here? Like, where's Christine? What happened?" And it was kind of a bummer. Like I remember being like really like kind of heartbroken about it. I was like, "Oh no! Like what happened? Why?" So I never knew really what happened. I still really don't. But it's just goes to show, like, we're all human, man. We all have our problems and our relationships. And um nobody's really above it. So um but yeah, I hated that. I hated that when I saw it, and I hated seeing how it still affected Christine when I talked to her as well. But you can't help but be affected by something like that if you're in a relationship, if you're in a marriage with somebody like that for that long. So um but yeah, but is what it is. I know Christine, George ended up marrying Suze, and I've met Suze and talked to her before. She's an incredibly sweet, incredibly cool lady, and she has done so much for George's legacy ever since he's passed away with the Garf and all the stuff that she's done. You know, getting the amusement park put out, and she's done so much for his legacy that it's you know what else can you say about it? Like she's been great. Um, and I know Christine ended up finding another partner later in life as well. So you know they both moved on in their own ways, but I know that there was always still that mutual love that George and Christine had for each other. That was always still there. I refuse to believe that it wasn't. But anyway, it's kind of a bummer way to end this. But yeah, hitting the 3-hour mark Sunday night. Got to get up and go to work in the morning, so I'm going to call it. But it's been a lot of fun. Looking forward to meeting as many of you at Living Dead Weekend as possible. Like I said, there's still tour spots available. If you want to take Larry's tour, there's a Friday night and a Sunday evening tour still available. There's still weekend passes always still available. Those will not sell out, so you will be able to get those. So I hope to see all you guys there in June. Good guests been announced. More coming. A lot more coming, so we'll stay tuned for that. I got to get my pre-order in for those day figures. I got to get them. I tend to sometimes talk myself out of those, but because I always say I don't need any more fucking action figures. I don't need any more figures, but I got to get those. So yeah, get your pre-orders in on those. Your pre-orders are still going to be up for those for the next 24 days or so. So get in on those, and yeah. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Hope you had a good one. And I'll be back. I don't know what I got coming up next. I got some other guests in the pipeline I'm going to have on sometime in the near future. I'm just going to reach out and make some things happen. But so stay tuned for that. I did get something. I will tease you guys with this. I did get something really cool in the mail the other day. Some rare photos, some behind the scenes photos that have never been seen by anybody from the set of a Romero film. I'm not sharing them tonight because I'm still doing some research and some work on figuring out who all is in these photos. But when the time is right, I will definitely be sharing those with you guys, and you guys will be seeing you guys will be seeing these photos for the first time ever because they've never been published, never been in circulation, never been seen. So stay tuned for that. But good to see everybody in the chat. Rick, always a pleasure, man. I'm glad you were able to make it as well. Ed was saying I talked to Suze during the Expostulations event. Nice lady. Yeah, she's really, really cool. Bonnie, always a pleasure seeing you, Bonnie. Hope you have a great week as well. Ed, always a pleasure, my man. Stay good out there. Sent the ultimate bite, the emotional part. There you go. There's a nice little in parentheses on the end of Love Bites. There you go. Always good to see Sent in here. Larry, always good to see you, my man. Keep me posted on when the screening tickets go on sale. Because if it is what we're hoping it is, I did it in October, but I'm damn sure gonna do it again if the opportunity presents itself. Jeff, always a pleasure, man. Thanks for another unique and great show. Michael, have a great week. You too, my man. Thank you very much. Matt, always a pleasure, man. Good to see you hanging out in here all night. See you in soon. Yes, sir. Steven, great show, Alpha. Everyone else, please have a safe rest of your day and great rest of the week ahead. Absolutely. Always good to see you, Steven. And I always appreciate your takes on things. They're always interesting. They're always unique, and they usually give me a good laugh. So always appreciate it, my man. Yeah, reckon that's it. Everybody hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new. And until next time, I'll see you then. But until then, stay safe, stay prepared, but always stay scared.